And we're live. Hello, folks. Excuse me again. I'm a bit disorganized again today. There we go. So I was just trying to get this organized a little bit. Spare with me a wee second. Yeah, we're okay. We're not past 9 o'clock. We'll let me sort that out. If anybody's there, say hello. And if anybody can let me know that you can hear me, I've got a wee green light, which is good. And sometimes the wee green light doesn't work. So hello, everybody. Welcome to Sloan Science Fiction Station. I'm just getting organized, as you can tell. It's me. Hello there. It's me. Thanks for joining us. We weren't able to get up and running yesterday, basically, folks. So work done and all. We thought, well, why not just try? I thought I'd check it out with you guys anyway. Just try and go with the next night as usual, which is what we used to do if we couldn't get up and running on a particular night. There's Telios Doaz saying evening Doc, evening Telios, evening Babs, how are you? Sean Wellen says it's good to see you again. It's me, everything is good. Oh, excellent, thank you very much. It's me, and how you all doing, folks? Thanks very much for joining us. As I said, it's I was trying to give you a wee bit of notice, but we'll go ahead with chapter 2 tonight. Bear with me a wee second. I'm going to transfer seats. Oh, there we go. How low is that? I'm not liking this chair, I have to say. It's really just not tall enough, but there we go. Let's get me in here. That's better, isn't it? I'm really not happy with how I've got this. Well, the room's fine, but how I've got my microphone and everything set up is not great at all. And I've been trying to move things around tonight to try and find a happy place for it, but I wasn't able to do so. I think I might need to tighten up a few bits and pieces there. It's me, the gaming chair. Do you play Doom? Well, yeah, I've played Doom. I haven't played Doom in ages, but yeah, I like Doom. Miss Doom, Castle Wolfenstein, and all those things. Yeah, a long time back. You buy these chairs really for their lumbar support, don't you? I think, but the last one I had went bad quite quick. I kind of liked it. It had more height, I suppose, for my long legs. But this one is giving me bother. Who makes this one? I don't know. Oversteel is it or something like that? But I could do with it being about an inch higher off the ground from a table, because it basically has, when I'm typing, it's got me at a bit of an angle, ever so slight, but it's starting to feel it a wee bit in the shoulders. Now, bear with me a wee second, folks. We'll grab some books over. It's been an interesting week, hasn't it? I don't know if anybody's seen Elon Musk's little speech. I found that very funny. So sadly, we've lost Shane McGowan over and around here from the Pogues as well. But I just popped up a wee thing. I was up quite late last night, and I just noticed. I think just a few minutes after I landed, there's a new Mad Max film on the way. Which we're very, very happy about. Furiosa. If anybody's not seen the trailer, it looks excellent. It really does. And I think it'll be out I wasn't too sure. I didn't quite catch the date. It might be March and it might be May next year. Excuse me. And another wee thing, just from science fiction point of view, I think is the Booker Prize has been announced, and I think it's been given to an Irish writer, not Northern Irish, but I can't remember his name, but the book is Prophet's Song, which apparently is sounds a bit science fiction-y, if you see what I mean. It's meant to be kind of like an Ireland as a totalitarian state. So there we go. So we're just getting our notes organized and getting things out the way here so that I can get working a wee bit. I hope you're all well wherever you are. It's freezing here at the minute, and I've just noticed the window's open. Hang on a second. So big frost here. I'm going to put it on a latch so it will not freeze too much. If it gets bad, I'll get the old leather jacket on. Excuse me. There's Matt S. saying, I would like to be several inches higher off the ground. Where can I apply to be taller? I hate being tall. My wife hates being short, I suppose, if you like, but you can't win. But the ground's too far away. Joseph Smith saying, hey, it's me. My favorite Mad Max is the very first movie. I I tend to go with the Road Warrior, but I like them all for different reasons, I think. But Fury Road is a lovely thing to watch. And there's Cynthia saying, "Hi Doc, hi all, hi Cynthia. Thank you very much for your email. I'm going to try and have a look at it in a minute. I've been very busy, and thank you very much for your contribution. You'll be my first Patreon supporter, so we're going to I was hoping to get some audio content done shortly, folks. And the reason why I've actually recorded some stuff and had to admit to myself that I haven't been too well, that my throat's a bit I sound a bit nasal in it, and it didn't quite sound right, so I'm going to have a bit of a re-record. But we were going to do our first what we're going to do is it All Watched Over by Machines of Loving Grace. We're going to do a recording of that. And so we're going to dedicate it to you, Cynthia, as we thank you for being our first Patreon. So thank you very much. Excuse me. Matt S. says Elon Musk is a giant crybaby. Freedom of speech in US means government can't punish speech, not that private citizens or companies won't react accordingly to bad ideas. I was just saying, hey, Cynthia, send your welcome. I'll have to get that up on the screen now. Yeah, freedom of speech in the UK is a bit funny, to be honest with you, and depends on where you're at. But for example, there's things that I've said on here technically I can be arrested for. Blasphemy is a thing in this country, believe it or not, even though we're supposedly within the UK. So you can still get arrested for blasphemy here. If I quote you a line from was it Team America? I could be. It's one of those things where it still exists, but I don't think anybody's prosecuted for it, because I think you'd have to put the whole nation into jail, if you know what I mean. But yeah, freedom of speech within the UK. I suppose that our politicians have complete freedom of speech within Parliament, but outside of it, no, you don't. You know, excuse me, to a degree, it's being curtailed a fair bit. But yeah, that's. Hang on a wee second. I've got something interesting. I'll open up my emails here if I can find the right one. That's the wrong. So yeah, I hope everybody's fine. I wonder what the weather's like where you're at. We're in for a big freeze here apparently. Let's see. There we go, Cynthia. That's you. Let me see if I can get it. So just to update everybody, I'm going to read Cynthia's email here quickly. I'll just run through it. And it turns out we were discussing an alternative beginning to Dune Messiah last week when we were looking at the prologue and chapter 1. And we looked at the alternative introduction to Dune Messiah as published in The Road to Dune, I think, by Frank Herbert, etc. And we discovered it was very like Appendix 3, just a few little changes, a little bit of extra stuff in there, but not really that much at all. So just in regards to the beginning, it seems there's another one. So Cynthia sent me this earlier in the week. I'll just read it here. It says, Hi Doc, I've just listened to your first session of Dune Messiah. Enjoyed it as you began talking about the different prologues and our presence or absence of them in different editions. I realized that my copy of the book was a bit different still. So here we go. So this is Cynthia's has a paper copy back from grade school years, which is the Berkeley Medallion edition, 27th printing, 1975. Pages are yellowing and getting fragile, but I've never wanted to replace it. There is no prologue, but it begins with a 4-page interview with Bronzo by a priest entitled Excerpts from the Death Cell Interview with Bronzo Vix. After that is the short chapter from Bronzo's analysis of history, Muad'Dib, which you treated as chapter 1 in your recent session. Excuse me. Since you mentioned that this chapter was all we have of the character of Bronzo, I wondered if you'd ever run across the Death Cell interview in any of the editions of Dune Messiah. You have. So the answer is no. So that's why that was so fascinating. In case you haven't seen it, I've attached photos of the pages from my book, including the front cover, publication page, the Death Cell interview chapter, and the analysis of history chapter, both with some marginality from years ago, so you can see the passages for yourself. And Cynthia says, I'll summarize briefly in case the photos are hard to make out. Bronzo begins by extolling the dangers of oversimplification and the problem of what you oversimplify. He explains that spice addiction changes eyesight and therefore vision. It simplifies meaning the deep blue stain in the eye eliminates visual contact, which leads to the loss of conceptual complexity. According to the interviewer, Bronzo was considered a heretic for his views and will likely die in an imperial prison for his beliefs. Oh, right, okay. Bronzo admits that he had attempted to study the various circumstances in Paul's training and his Bene Gesserit trained mother as phenomena worthy of study. He speaks of the dependency on spice that trapped Paul and Alia and how Paul used the Fremen and their traditions for his own ends. He took their virginity, an assault reminiscent of the Fremen spice that changed Alia. He wonders about the long-term consequences of Paul's actions. Most important, as part of the opening of Dune Messiah, the priest declares that those who conspire against Muad'Dib used Bronzo's writing as a rallying argument. Bronzo denies this and says that, in fact, 12 years of jihad created the argument. Excuse me, that's interesting. I like the bit about vision there, by the way. I think that's really, really good. That spice addiction changes eyesight and therefore vision, and it simplifies, meaning the deep blue stain in the eye eliminates visual visual contrast, which leads to the loss of a conceptual complexity. I like that a lot. That's quite good. Cynthia goes on to say, I find these two early chapters juxtaposing the author and his writing deepen the key themes that draw the reader into the main narrative. Here are 3 examples, and I'm sure you can think of others. So we have 1, the imprisoned Bronzo speaks of his capacity to look at the roots of Paul's transformation and sort out the consequences, suggesting the historian's prediction is different than the lethal power of prediction mentioned in his written excerpts. One could also add, what would the distinction between these 2 kinds of forward vision mean, coming as it does from a native of Ix, perhaps another planet of scientific amoralists like the Tleilaxu? 2, Bronzo criticizes the danger of simplistic thinking in the interview, but writes of a single answer of interpretive key in his history, that total prediction is lethal. Is this a contradiction, or is it part of the paradox he writes about regarding Paul? Maybe prediction isn't even the right focus. Lethality may be just as complicated as the power of prediction, a myth-making force in its own right. Very good, that. I like that. Yes. And is the 3 is the conspiracy that emerged from the jihad and from heretical teachings, as per the interview, part of this lethality emphasized in the writings? How might that change our readings of subsequent chapters that begin to unpack the early stages of the conspiracy? And Cynthia just added that I just checked my recently purchased Kindle version, and the Death Cell interview is there as well. Hope you're well, Cynthia. I've got those attachments that we can have a wee look at. So yeah, that's thank you first of all so much for that. And I think that's pretty interesting. I wonder how many of you guys have this. So I've got 3, including this. So not one of the copies that I have has this at all. And I'm wondering, is this a UK publishing problem? I'm wondering, does everybody else have this introduction? That could have been interesting, because I could have been sitting chatting away about different introductions. You might have thought I was mad last week. Excuse me. So thank you very much, Cynthia. That's and again, yeah, paying attention to the historians, I suppose. I think that's quite a good thing. And I very much liked what it said at Eyes. I'll have to have a wee think about that and see if we can read through it as well. But yeah, Cynthia saying thank you. You're welcome. Thank you very much, Cynthia. Elon Musk is a giant. What was he saying? Oh, the freedom of speech by Elon Musk. I thought very quickly before we get started, folks, I thought the really strange thing about it was the chap that was interviewing him. Before he told everybody where to go, basically, the chap that I haven't seen the whole thing, but I kind of want to watch. It was kind of like watching a car crash, I thought. He sort of went to him, what is it he called him? He goes, oh, Johnson or something, he calls the guy. Johnson, we've known each other for 15 years and the reason why I'm here and all this stuff. And then the guy who's interviewing him just turns around and goes, I'm Andrew. And the two of them just, the body language, everything, I just found it hysterical. I don't know what was going on there. But yes, indeed. He's an interesting chap, isn't he? So stuff there with Cynthia's email pertaining to, I suppose, the conspiracy, the reasons for Paul's downfall. I very much like that, that part about vision. And it kind of rings true in a way, doesn't it? I think. Let me see. What was it? How would we put it there? He explains that spice addiction changes eyesight and therefore vision. It simplifies, meaning the deep blue stain in the eye eliminates visual contrast, which leads to the loss of conceptual complexity. That's pretty good. I kind of get that. I thought, particularly when watching the mini-series of Dune, that I kind of got that kind of sense of something that about the the blue within blue eyes of the Fremen. Something about a lack of focus, if you see what I mean. That whenever the characters, particularly if somebody's looking at the camera, it's hard to focus on their eyes and hard to gain the character's intent, I suppose, because of the coloring of the eyes. And I think it's something that, you'd see it in the David Lynch film. I think as Paul and Jessica progress, but Paul's eyes certainly at some points seem a bit too much. I think is it sometimes that it's hard to see, the character that we have in our eyes. I suppose I'm a great believer in that. That you can, a person is in there if you know what I mean. Looking at people in the eyes is tells you a lot about them. The eyes of a bad give one television. Interesting. Yeah. Particularly, what's the word? Eliminates visual contrast, which leads to the loss of conceptual complexity. I do like that. That's something I'd like to mull on. I suppose it's making a point about Bronzo being from X here, and I suppose we'll learn a bit more about X in this book, I suppose. But perhaps another planet of scientific amoralists like the Tleilaxu. The danger of simplistic thinking that total prediction is lethal. Lethality may be just as complicated as the power of prediction. A myth-making force in its own right. Well, I would agree with that, particularly within. Excuse me. I suppose when we think about heroes and how they, I suppose what we could almost call the apotheosis of the hero, the development into myth, if you like, the key factor is often their death, isn't it? And that it's, Arthur, it's the death of Arthur, I suppose. The other point being that character is often a bridge between two different ways of life, if you see what I mean, or two times or two cultures. That bridging character, whenever that hero dies, I suppose it allows one form of life to end and a new one to progress, if you like. With Arthur, it's kind of, with Arthur's death, he's kind of the bridge between paganism, I suppose, and Christianity. He's very much part of both worlds. But as we go to, he's obviously becoming more Christian, I think, But yeah, that's pretty interesting. Babs is saying, or act as horse blinders to eliminate field of vision, similar to the Mentat not having info. Yeah, everything's got a crutch. There's a caveat to everything in this, isn't there, really? Something saying, yes, the theme of eyes visions continues later in the story with radiation bomb, which takes the eyesight, and many people are afraid of getting new Ixian eyes. That's correct, the metal eyes. And Paul as preacher, I told Elliot, total prediction equals death. Yeah, it is. It's I suppose we talked about it the last time, didn't we? Before we get started here, folks. But that idea of omniscience, I suppose total prediction would be omniscience, wouldn't it? With what we have with Paul as prescience, he's not. There's not. It doesn't. It's not total, I think. But to be able to, yeah, it would drive you nuts, I think, and what you would get no joy out of anything in life at all. And I suppose, well, here we are. We've got this bit to start with, really. Chapter 2 of our book is all about our conspiracy. And so just carrying on, I suppose, from Bronzo of Ix's. So we would have this this brief sort of analysis of history by Bronzo of Ix being our chapter 1. And as we said, it sort of was a kind of a prologue. So my copy then has, as I said, the way it's set up is just prologue, the weird of Dune, like this. And it almost reads more like a dramatis personae than really a prologue, I suppose. It's the key things that are all in bold are just characters' names. So we do have this alternative. So let's look at a third alternative to the opening of Dune Messiah, and I will have to take a wee bit of time to have a nosy at that, see what we can do with it. So here we are, chapter 2. And yeah, we had found a few issues with I'm going to need a book. Oh, there we are. Paperweight, right. There we go. So our epigraph, and I'm going to be honest with you about this. I could swear that this comes from somewhere else. There's something about this quotation that reminds me of someone, and I haven't been able to figure out what it is. Maybe it's me doing a misjustice to Frank Herbert, because it's an excellent quotation. There exists no separation between gods and men. One blends softly casual into the other. From Proverbs of Muad'Dib. So as much as it says Proverbs of Muad'Dib, if you like, we don't know if that's the title of a book, or we would have to assume it is, but there's no author given. And I suppose based on what we've been told by Bronzo of Ix, that we shouldn't really necessarily assume that that's something that Muad'Dib said. However, I think I mentioned it last week, there exists no separation between gods and men. One blends softly casual into the other. They blend easily into each other. Gods and men, I totally agree. I couldn't agree more, to be honest with you. And basically different types of gods and hero cults and so on and so forth. There we go. Just put that over there a wee bit. Yeah, it's an interesting statement, and it's one that I would agree with. How we create our gods, etc., where they come from. You've got gods and men. You say gods and heroes, if you like. That's why I'm wondering: is this one of these phrases that Herbert's taken and swapped out a couple of words because and it is just me at this point. I'll maybe see if I can investigate further, but it really does remind me of something else. But if it's Frank Herbert's own work, then it's quite poetic, I think, as well. It's a nice way of putting it. I'll just catch up with your comments there quickly, folks, and then we'll tear into chapter 2. So, we were just talking about vision, similar to the Mentat not having enough information. Yes. Yeah, I always like to follow the film as it Blade Runner, and that the androids dream of electric sheep, the theme of vision in it, I suppose, but particularly the Ridley Scott film. Was one of the reasons why they set it in 2019, wasn't it? It was to take away the obvious 2020 reference, I think, because it was originally 2020. Tell me else. It was Paul as preacher. I told Alia that prediction equals. So I'm just reading some stuff again. Thank you. Carlos says, hi everyone. Sorry I'm late. Hi Carlos, thanks for joining us. Joseph was saying, hi Carlos. Don't forget to smash that like button. Oh, thanks for the reminder. God, yeah, I'm very bad at that stuff. But yeah, if anybody wants to like or subscribe, thank you very much. It's always appreciated. I'm awful at kind of promoting this channel, aren't I? Well, here we go. We're going to meet our conspirators. And straight off, in with an interesting character, we have Scytale, or Scytale. We'll talk about that in a second. And it's a good introduction to this character. And he's probably the newest thing we have to Dune here, I suppose, the Dune universe. Despite the murderous nature of the plot he hoped to devise, the thoughts of Scytale, the Tleilaxu face dancer, returned again and again to rueful compassion. I shall regret causing death and misery to Muad'Dib. Okay. I think somebody's had mentioned paradoxes already before we've got into this chapter, and there's one straight away. Despite the murderous nature of the plot, we're told he hopes to devise. And I've basically put, so this, I've made a little note here, so I'm questioning that this is not yet, this is a plot that's not yet in existence then. Excuse me. And it also made me thought, as we went down, that it's not the plot that's going to be discussed here. It's something else. But the thought process of this face dancer, as we're told, return again and again to rueful compassion. And it suggested that it's for the victim, I suppose. We want to find this out a wee bit. Now, but I just thought that's a little bit paradoxical. And going with what we know of Frank, that's pretty much spot on. So Scytale is from the Greek Scytale or Scytale, and is how do I put this? It's used with code ciphers, and it looks a bit like a baton, I suppose. Think of like a hollow tube, and it has a rod that goes down the middle of it. And I actually drew one here for you, just so you can get the gist of what I'm kind of trying to talk about. This is it here. And it's, well, that's me trying to draw one. If you want to have a look, you should be able to see one on Wikipedia somewhere or something like that. So in cryptography, they're used to perform transposition ciphers. And basically the way it would work is that you'd wind around the cylinder with these kind of markings on placings on it. You'd wound a bit of parchment around it with a message. And basically it uses it's to do with the rod in it and all. It basically uses the rod of a particular length to decrypt the message, if you like. So it's part of that old sort of ancient world idea that the enemy of my enemy is my friend, if you see what I mean. And that such kind of codes and ciphers and encryption methods. I suppose if you imagine three people living, three cities, A, B, and C, A competes with B and C competes with B. So if you like, A and C tend to be friends and they want to communicate without B knowing. And it's that kind of idea, if you like. So cipher, of course, is from cipher, which is the Arabic word for zero. And I suppose also a cipher is a secret way of writing zero, nothing, but like null, but is also someone of no importance, which I thought was kind of interesting. So that's just based within Scytale, as I might think. Now, I've been calling this guy Scytale for years, by the way. It's one of those habits that I suppose if you formed it when you were at a certain point and you didn't get out of the habit, if you like. So Scytale or Scytale. Scytale makes me think of him as almost overlays a kind of almost like an Italian hitman to me. Scytale, you know. So I don't know. I'll probably jump between Scytale and Scytale. I hope I'll try and sort of balance out one of them. I'm not too sure what you guys prefer, but I think it should be Scytale, to be honest with you. I don't know. Scytale always kind of worked for me. So there we go. There's a lot in the name, isn't there? The suggestion of cipher, a nothing, encryption, hidden messages, this kind of thing, all probably part and parcel of plots and conspiracies, etc. So I shall regret causing death and misery to Muad'Dib. Interesting. Okay. So I suppose it's one of those things, a bit like, it's a thing in literature, isn't it? Occasionally we get the sympathetic assassin, that kind of thing. So we're told he kept this benignity. It's a great word, isn't it? I would have went with benevolence, carefully hidden from his fellow conspirators. Such feelings told him that he found it easier to identify with the victim than with the attackers. And we're told that this is a thing characteristic of the Tleilaxu. And I've written next to that why, and I suppose I've written down, probably part of their mimesis. So we're starting to get a few things about this group of individuals. I suppose out of everybody who's in this book, they're the only group who are not really mentioned at all within Dune. There's the barest mention of them. And it's kind of interesting to sort of produce. We could run with the Tleilaxu being arguably the main villains, if you like, of the Dune series. I'm not even too sure if that's a fair description, but we're only introducing them really in Act 2. It's quite interesting. I think we've kept them back. So a characteristic of these people are that they identify with the victim rather than the attacker. And we're told that he stood in bemused silence somewhat apart from the others. The argument, we're told, is about psychic poison. And it's been going on for some time now. We're told it's energetic and vehement, but it's polite in a blindly compulsive way that adepts of the great schools always adopted, close to their dogma, we're told. So we're introduced then to our second conspirator, and it's a familiar face. And of course we have her speaking here. When you think you have him skewered, right then you will find him unwounded. And we're told this was the voice of the old Reverend mother of the Bene Gesserit. It's Gaius, Helen, Mohiam, and we're told that she's their hostess here on Wallach 9. Excuse me, so the home planet of the Bene Gesserit. Bear with me a wee second, folks. I'm going to grab Dune just while we're here. Curiosity. Yeah, I think we've looked at this before. So just in terms of Wallach 9 is the 9th planet of the Lawin site of the mother school of the Bene Gesserit. I think we'll we find out later on that I think there's more than one kind of Bene Gesserit homeworld, aren't there? And that occasionally they move them around, if I can remember correctly. But that's way down the line. Carlos is saying the dirty Tleilaxu, my favorite of the factions, love their evolution in this series. They're pretty good, aren't they? They're a very interesting set of. They're a very strange group. You don't know whether to call them a race, I suppose, a school, a religious group. It's an interesting. Yeah. I think, Carlos, as you said, I think they remain pretty interesting all the way down. Bojack Harkness saying, have to work, unfortunately. Catch you later. Have a good evening, all. Thanks very much, Bojack. I hope the work goes quick for you. Telling us the Wiz saying that alternative pronunciation makes him sound like a Harry Potter character. Which one is the alternative? The Scytale or Scytale? I don't know. I think the proper pronunciation would be something like Scytale or something. Maybe I'm being too Italian, but I suppose it's Greek, isn't it? Scytale. Yeah, that's probably what I would go with. Scytale. Yeah. Scytale. Scytale, I think. It's maybe just me. I don't know. I was told when you're trying Italian, not that I speak anyway, but if you're doing Italian, to overemphasize is the penultimate syllable. and he's from Scytale, like that. But yeah, I don't know. I've been saying Scytale for years, I suppose, and it's one of those things that when you realise, oh, I think I've been pronouncing this character's name wrong, but you've been doing it for so long, it's hard to get out of the habit, if you see what I mean. You're right there, Holly. Oh goodness. Hang on. Sorry about this, folks. What can we do for? Oh, sorry. I think my wife sorted it out. There we go. Getting barked at. So yeah, it is interesting with Scytale. Just as we're about to hit with the Reverend Mother here, but the words there. I suppose we have benignity. As I said, which is an interesting word. Compassion. Not terms we would be thinking about. In terms of victims, I suppose suggests something, I don't know, murderous or something not good anyway. I suppose that there's a predatory nature to them, whatever it is, I suppose. They have victims. So yes, indeed, it's the Reverend Mother Gaius, Helen, Mohiam. Their hostels here on Wallach 9. She was a black-robed, stick figure, a witch crone, seated in a floater chair at Scytale's left. Her abba hood, which was thrown back to reveal leathery face beneath, silvery hair, deeply pocketed eyes stare out of skull mask features. And then, okay, here's one that's quite interesting. Then, so I always thought that the way Gaius, Helen, Mohiam was described tended to make me think more of an owl. I think they've kind of gone for a little bit more sinister, I think, here. So we're told they were using a Mirabasa language, home phalange consonants, jointed vowels, and it's an instrument for conveying fine emotional subtleties. So this is quite interesting, we think. Mirabasa. So if we break this word up, I suppose how it would translate would either be, based on my own work here, either a wonder language or a peace language, a language of peace. So Basa in Sanskrit would be a spoken language or speech, for example. Mira is one of those words that goes across a whole range of languages and generally translates to, again, I've got Sanskrit here, admirable, peace, female ruler, ocean. Peace is the one that I would have known generally. And then, of course, Latin, Mira is wonder or wonderful. So there we go. Now, interestingly enough, I suppose, Basa is also a first century BCE Indian playwright who wrote in Sanskrit. So there's quite a lot of little trails there with that word, and I quite like it. So Mirabasa, I would go with like a wonder language, possibly a language of peace. It's an instrument for conveying fine emotional subtleties, I suppose, and we're going to see that here. And it's interesting where that's put in just before we meet our third conspirator, who I would suggest is not a master of Mirabasa, at least in the understanding of the fine emotional subtleties that are being conveyed, I think, as we're going to see here. So our third conspirator is Edric, the guild steersman. And we're told he replied to the Reverend Mother, now with a vocal courtesy contained in a sneer, a lovely touch of disdainful politeness. Let me just... Yes. And we're told that Scytale looked at this guild envoy, and we're told that Edric swam. We get to have a look at him through Scytale's eyes. I suppose Scytale or Scytale, it's going to be annoying, isn't it? I'm going to try and go with Scytale, I think, if nobody's that offended by it. Just because I think it'll be easier for me to do with all, over the years, it's the same what I've been using all these years. Makes him sound like a Harry Potter character. I have never read the Harry Potter books, Babs. I've watched the films except for the very, very last one. I thought they were all right, but I haven't read the books. But yeah, I get what you mean. So this language has also basically whatever it is they're saying. It can convey things like contempt and politeness, all sorts of things. Sub-vocally at the very least, if you know what I mean. And I'd be interested to figure out this language. So we're told Edric swam in a container of orange gas, only a few paces away. His container sat in the center of a transparent dome, built for this meeting by the Bene Gesserit. The guildsman, we're told, was an elongated figure, vaguely humanoid, with finned feet and hugely finned, membranous hands, a fish in a strange sea. I think if anybody's seen Edric and goodness, what do we call it? Children of Dune, a TV miniseries that is Dune Messiah and Children of Dune, if you like. I thought he looked quite good in his tank. I don't know if anybody's seen him, but he, in terms of how we've just been, this little description here, I thought that they did quite a good job of matching him. You can still see the human, but yeah, it's definitely something fishy about him. Excuse me, excuse the pun. A fish in a strange sea. We're told his tank vents emitted a pale orange cloud rich with the smell of the geriatric spice melange. And then here we have our fourth conspirator, and I've put our potential conspirator. And of course, if we go on this way, we'll die of stupidity. And this is Irulan. So the fourth person present, the potential member of the conspiracy, Princess Irulan, wife but no mate, Scytale reminded himself, wife of the mutual foe. She stood at the corner of Edric's tank, a tall blonde beauty, splendid in robe of blue whale fur and matching hat. She's gold buttons glittered at her ears and carried herself with an aristocrat's hauteur. That's the description we had of her in Dune, I suppose. But we're told something in the absorbed smoothness of her features betrayed controls of her Bene Gesserit background. So we've seen very little of Irulan, I suppose, up until now. Scytale's mind turned from nuances of language and faces to nuances of location. And we're kind of getting this. This is for our benefit, I suppose, as well. We're getting our little scene set up here. Particularly this dome. So we're told all around the dome lay hills, mangy with melting snow, which reflected the mottled wet blueness from small blue-white sun hanging at the meridian. And Scytale's thoughts on the locus are, why this particular place, he wondered. The Bene Gesserit seldom did anything this casually. Take the dome's open plan. A more conventional and confining space, for example, might have inflicted the guildsman with claustrophobic nervousness, inhibitions in his psyche, those of birth and life off-planet in open space. This is to do with Edric in particular, I suppose. That's the way I've drawn it there. I just put there's the little, I suppose, the wee descriptions they're giving us, these wee hills with the dome. And then there's our Bene Gesserit dome that they're in, I suppose. Excuse my desire to doodle. So there's thought has been put into this construction, and it's interesting what he says here. His thoughts here are take the domes. They don't do anything casually. Take this place; it's open plan. A more conventional and confining space might have inflicted the guildsman with claustrophobic nervousness. So this has been they've built this place specifically with Edric's, I suppose, the limitations of him being in this tank and having lived in space, etc. All this time. Pardon me. To accommodate him, and Scytale's thoughts here are to have built this place especially for Edric. Though, what a sharp finger that pointed at his weakness. So, What here was aimed at me, he wondered. So, simply put, nothing is quite what you think it is, I suppose. Well, nothing quite what it appears to be. And the suggestion, and I quite like this nuance here. The suggestion is all that the Bene Gesserit built this place, you know, for Edric, just to make sure basically we take the opposite of that, to make sure he feels that he's got plenty of space and that he's comfortable. It would be the opposite of his claustrophobic nervousness, if you like. That there are inhibitions in his psyche. Those are birth and life off planet and open space. So the idea is that, of course, you can do this in the form of politeness and that it's accommodating, if you like. But at the same time, as much as Scytale thinks that, it's also a deliberately pointing out Edric's weaknesses to everyone. What a sharp finger that! What a sharp finger that pointed at his weakness. And what here was aimed at me. So what in this building has been designed to make me feel, as if maybe I'm comfortable, but really is to kind of point something out about me. Excuse me, to reveal something perhaps. And I suppose it gives us an idea that this kind of thought process, we're kind of used to this kind of thing in Dune, aren't we? I think. But we'll get to see a bit of this within this chapter, and it's kind of, sometimes later on, I think in the Dune series, this is almost tame. I think come to this kind of mental fencing, if you like. Mohiam says, "Have you nothing to say for yourself, Scytale?" She demanded, and he says, "You wish to draw me into this fool's fight. Very well. We're dealing with a potential Messiah. You don't launch a frontal attack upon such a one. Martyrdom would defeat us." We're told they all stared at him. Mohiam's response was, "You think that's the only danger?" Demanded her voice, wheezing. I could do her quite well, couldn't I? Excuse me. So what we get is we don't really know what's been said too much beforehand, but Irulan's letting us know that if they keep going this way, they'll all die of stupidity. And we kind of know that she's not quite fully a part of this conspiracy yet. But very much so, we're getting everything from Scytale's point of view here, or most of it. And I suppose, yeah, we were talking about how Frank does his little Jungian mandalas and stuff, by the way. And we said it wasn't a pity that we didn't do these from the beginning with Dune, but I kind of did the little setup there, if you can have a wee look. Oh, sorry, moving it the wrong way. There we go. And again, you could just sort of readjust that just for this chapter. That's just that wee stuff I scribbled down at the very end there. No, but you wish to draw me into a fool's fight. Very well. We're dealing with a Messiah. Don't launch a frontal attack. Martyrdom would defeat us. So martyrdom is not going to achieve our goals for us. Scytale shrugged. Where are we? So you think that's the only danger, that if we, martyrdom? He shrugged. And we're told that and we get to see a little bit of description about him here, I suppose. It's not going to really matter with a faced answer, but he had chosen a bland, round-faced appearance for the meeting, jolly features and vapid, full lips, the body of a bloated dumpling, and it occurred to him now as he studied his co-conspirators. Sorry, didn't I read that right? Hang on. Oh, that's my bad handwriting. I didn't read it correctly. Sorry. As he studied his co-conspirators, that he'd made the ideal choice out of instinct, perhaps. He alone could manipulate fleshy appearances across a wide spectrum of bodily shapes and features. He was the human chameleon, a face dancer. And the shape he wore now invited others to judge him too lightly. So this face that he's put on, soft, round, etc., if you see what I mean, it's a smart thing if he can put this on. If you get the idea that the Atreides, for example, all have quite hawkish features, don't they? They have that kind of Roman angles, if you get the idea. and would make someone seem intimidating, threatening. The rounder, softer face, if you like, is good. That's, excuse me, I'm no artist, by the way, but where am I? That's just my quick, based on the description. It's designed to make him non-intimidating. It's almost like a baby's face, isn't it? I suppose. Jolly features, vapid, full lips, the body of a bloated dumpling. But we're told, oh, okay, after we get this about his face, it's not quite as what it appears to be. So face dancers, we learn, therefore, because we've not encountered them before, can change their appearance, manipulate their fleshy appearances, a wide spectrum of body shapes and features. The human chameleon and the shape he wore now invited others to judge him too lightly. I suppose the question is, would they? And Mohiam says, well, she pressed. And Scytale says, well, I was enjoying the silence. Our hostilities are better left unvoiced. And the Reverend Mother drew back, and Scytale saw her reassessing him. So we're getting all of the minutiae, aren't we? The details. He's observing her, observing him, this kind of thing. And we're told that they were all products of profound prana bandhu training, capable of muscle and nerve control that few humans ever achieved. But Scytale had muscles and nerve linkages the others didn't even possess. Plus, a special quality of simpatico, a mimic's insight with which he could put on the psyche of another as well as the other's appearance. Excuse me. So, simpatico, we have, I suppose, we get this initially with the start of it. He feels sympathy, doesn't he? He's where did we get that? Oh, just go to the back of the big. The idea of his compassion, etc., etc., for his victims. It's funny. Victims. Put it this way: if you ask me about my profession, I wouldn't be discussing my victims. I don't have victims. I have clients, so that would should say something about them already. Let me just catch up with your comments. A wee minute, folks. Here, I'll just figure out where we were. Probably under print. Yes, there we go. Give me smoke. The dirty Tleilaxu. I love the fact, Carlos, that we were going back to your comment. The dirty Tleilaxu, my favorite of the factions. Love the evolution. It's the same as the Bene Gesserit, the kind of the dirty Tleilaxu, the filthy Tleilaxu, this kind of thing. And then you realize that it's them that call themselves that they've spread this, their own kind of anti-propaganda. I think they're very interesting. Scytale is how I read it. Scytale doesn't feel right to me. Yeah, just going with it being, it's a Greek word. So I kind of realized this and then went, oh, have I been mispronouncing it? And I went, I've checked it. Yes, I have. But yeah, Scytale, I think, Joseph, feels right to me as well. There is something that doesn't really matter. Both of them kind of give off the same kind of vibe, I think, There's Ryan the Scar saying, cheers, everyone. Hi, Ryan. Joseph saying, cheers. Good to see you all well. All right, Doc, thank you. Yeah, I'm still a bit... I suppose probably all right for me. I went from being a bit, I suppose, nasal and so on to being a bit chesty with this, this old cough. I suppose, Or we've had a bit of a cold flu thing here for 2-3 weeks, I think, and it's just kind of shifted a bit. But I don't feel particularly bad. It's just all down here in my chest at the minute. So it makes me very wheezy. Not that, of course, I'm usually wheezy, but it's usually my throat that does that. Plus all this talking. Yes, indeed. Where are we? Yeah, I like Scytale, by the way. I think Scytale's a very interesting character. I think, and I suppose the interesting question is, do we have a level of simpatico for him? So just from the Greek word for sympathy, I kind of put it down as the special quality of simpatico, a mimic's insight which he could put on the psyche of another as well as the other's appearance. So it's just a level of, I suppose, sympathy and empathy of the person that they can use to embed certain features into their physicality, if that makes any sense. And as much as there's a level of you know, again, who's making this comment here, if you like, but it says that Scytale had muscles. This is our omniscient narrator, I think, pretty much. Had muscles and nerve linkages the others didn't even possess. So we're told that everybody here is products of profound pranu-bindu training, capable of muscle and nerve control that few humans ever achieved. So if we take that with the Bene Gesserit, we've seen how that works with them, and that they're pretty much incredibly lethal, aren't they? It would suggest that if they can take the prana-bindu, the muscles and nerve linkages, stuff that the others don't even possess, that they're maybe a little bit beyond them as well. It's something to be impressed by, I think, here. And the level of kind of playing the room, if you like, that Scytale's doing here. They were told he gave her enough time to complete her assessment. Then said, poison. He uttered the word with the A tonals, which said he alone understood its secret meaning. So quite interesting wee aspects of this Mirabasa language here within this chapter, which I think is quite good. I wonder, is there any reference to it in the original Dune book? Let's have a wee quick look. Or is this the first time we're hearing this language being spoken? Mira MIR. Yeah, no, it's not mentioned. There we go. I quite like the idea of it. I have to say. And so something I'd always been kind of curious about is that, for example, the culture language Marian, I'd love to see how that could be represented, on the screen, for example, if we ever get to see the culture on the screen, So poison, he uttered the word, Aetons, which said he alone understood its secret meaning. Edric the guildsman stirred as voice rolled from the glittering speaker globe which orbited the corner of his tank above Irulan. And Edric says, we're discussing psychic poison, not a physical one. And we're told Scytale laughed. Mirabasa laughter could flay an opponent, and he held nothing back now. So mocking. And I suppose this is the thing that what we get here is that Scytale's being subtle in a way that Edric's not getting. I suppose Scytale would be well aware that this is a psychic poison that they're talking about. But Edric seems to have missed that nuance. We're told that Irulan smiled in appreciation, but the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam's eyes revealed a faint hint of anger. Stop that, she rasped. Control, I suppose. We're going to see a bit about this. This chapter has a fair amount to do with control. And I need to keep the book up to date with where we're at here. So there's a little bit of hyperbole around Scytale, but I suppose this is also the necessary thing. I suppose that if we're going to set characters against someone like Paul Atreides, then they'd be better. They'd better be almost superhuman themselves, hadn't they? It's kind of the problem whenever you write a character who's almost godlike, if you like, or of that level of power. If you see what I mean, is you need for him to feel, or him or her to feel any threat. Powerful characters require probably even more powerful adversaries, or very powerful adversaries, or at least a group of them. If you see what I mean. Just hoping we don't get too smoky in here again tonight. I thought that was interesting. Stopped. So we told the Scytale stopped, but he had their attention now. We're told Edric's in a silent rage. The Reverend Mother is alert in her anger, and Irulan is amused but puzzled. You get the sense that he's playing the room a wee bit, I think, but we're not too sure what's happened beforehand. So Scytale says, our friend Edric suggests that a pair of Bene Gesserit witches, trained in all their subtle ways, have not learned the true uses of deception. And I thought that was interesting. Is that deception is the basis of all warfare, isn't it? By Sun Tzu. Um, so yeah, again, being pointed out. So Edric doesn't get it. Poison. Yeah, stop this. The, Mohiam's aware that he's playing games, I think, and that's where her anger is coming from. But it is anger anyway, isn't it? Which means he's provoking a response. So Mohiam, we're told, turned to stare out at the cold hills of her Bene Gesserit homeworld. She was beginning to see the vital thing here. Scytale realized that was good. Irulan, that's another matter. So this is manipulation, and I'll put manipulation question mark, success question mark. And what is the vital thing, I suppose? We're about to finish. Edric saying, "Are you not one of us? Sorry, are you one of us not or not?" Scytale, and he stared out of tiny rodent eyes. So again, that's kind of why rodent there suggests a rat. Something like vermin. It's interesting. Why not beady eyes, for example, or something like that? I suppose we have that kind of lizardy association with Scytale. We've already had the fish kind of association with Edric, but this is I wonder why we went with rodent there. Interesting choice by the author. So Scytale says my allegiance is not the issue, but he keeps his attention on Irulan. So I suppose the point is hers. Scytale says, "You're wandering, princess. If this was why you came all these parsecs, risked so much," and we're told that she nodded agreement. "Was it to bandy platitudes with a humanoid fish, or dispute with a fat Tleilaxu face dancer?" See that there's he's able to put down Edric there while being self-deprecating, if you see what I mean. And I think that's partly to do with the appearance that he's chosen, Joseph saying, "Got to run, be back. We'll take it easy, Joseph. We'll see you later." See, I think a lot of this kind of stuff is where a lot of Dune is. I think this kind of back and forth mental kind of it's almost fencing. There's strategy and nuance. And there's all sorts of things. Words don't necessarily mean what they mean, and we get to see the thought processes of the characters. And particularly, this is Scytale, something new to us as well. This face dancer. There we go. So was it to bandy platitudes with a humanoid fish or dispute with the fat Tleilaxu face dancer? I suppose it's a good question. Why has she come all this way? So we're told Irulan stepped away from Edric's tank, shaking her head in annoyance from the thick odor of melange. And Edric took a moment to pop a melange pill into his mouth. I like that. Pop a melange pill. He ate spice and breathed it, and no doubt drank it, Scytale noted. Understandable. Spice heightened a steersman's prescience, gave him the power to guide a guild highliner across space at translight speeds with spice awareness. He found that line of the ship's future which avoided peril. Edric smelled another kind of peril now, but his crutch of prescience might not find it. So quite interesting. Another sort of observation from Scytale. He eats, breathes, and drinks the spice. It heightens his prescience, gives us a little bit of insight into how space travel works within the Dune universe there. In terms of finding the line of the ship's future, which avoided peril, I suppose. He smells a different kind of peril. But his crutch of prescience might not find it. So what's the real peril to Edric here? And I wonder, is he aware of it? I've got some thoughts about Edric, I suppose, coming up a wee bit. Irulan says, "I think it was a mistake for me to come here." Mohiam opened her eyes, closed them. A curiously reptilian gesture. So it's another. We were talking about, I suppose, the way Herbert kind of creates his characters in each chapter, sets them up like a Jungian mandala, has pairings of light and shadow, etc., etc. How do we chat about it before? So that's often I would go, as I was saying earlier, I often thought of Mohiam as bird-like, as like an owl, but she's been a particularly reptilian gesture, and I was wondering why. And is it to put, I suppose, Mohiam and Scytale on a similar footing, if you like, within this conspiracy, or is it an attempt at her using body language at a little bit of mimesis? Is it a bit of body language to remind Irulan, I suppose, what Scytale really is, that he's not this jolly round fat guy sitting in the corner. A curious, why curious reptilian gesture, particularly whenever as I said, whenever we get Mohiam with her eyes, I always thought of her as owl-like, if you see what I mean. A bird of prey is how I would have thought of her, but particularly an owl. So a reptilian gaze. And if there's so much nuance within movement, etc. here, Scytale shifted his gaze from Irulan to the tank, inviting the princess to share his viewpoint. You know, she would, we're told, Scytale knew, see Edric as a repellent figure. The bold stare, which was it a rodent stare momentarily ago, those monstrous feet and hands moving softly in the gas, smoky swirling of orange eddies around him. She would wonder at his sex habits, thinking how odd it would be to mate with such a one. I'm always thinking that sounds like a poem, and I'm just trying to think who would write a poem like that. And I'm thinking, is it Teddy? Yeah, it's I don't know if you know what I mean. I'll read it for you in the style of Ted Hughes. She would see Edric as a repellent figure, the bold stare, those monstrous feet and hands moving softly in the gas, smoky swirling of orange eddies around him. She would wonder at his sex habits, thinking how odd it would be to mate with such a one. Even the field force generator, which recreated for Edric the weightlessness of space, would set him apart from her now. Melange is a pile of crap. Something like so. Sorry, it's maybe just me getting that. And maybe you're thinking I've lost the plot a wee bit. It's nice writing, actually. I think it's quite good. The smoky swirling of orange eddies around him. She would wonder at his sex habits, thinking how odd it would be to mate with such a one. I'll point this out because there is an emphasis within this chapter of sex as a weapon. And I think this is the first example of it, really. And again, it's Scytale knew how she's going to see this figure. The idea is to make him repellent if he's not already so. And I thought that I made one wee comment here that she would wonder at his sex habits, thinking how odd it would be to mate with such one. Even the field force generator, which recreated Frederick weightlessness of space, would set him apart from her now. So in terms of there's definitely some kind of sexual viewpoint here from Scytale, possibly to do with his mimesis. But I suppose he's trying to put himself into Irulan's head here. How does she see Edric? This is how she sees him. He's repellent. Look at the feet, the hands. In the gas, he's floating. And I just go, I wonder, in a kind of one of those kind of, I wonder how he has sex. This kind of thing. Pardon me, all the kind of revulsions, if you like, that are kind of almost, I suppose, sexually immature, aren't they, in a funny way? But I put my own wee comment at the bottom, which was just, haven't you seen Beauty and the Beast? It could be exactly the things that attract a fishy man to a girl, if you see what I mean. Anyway, I thought that was quite funny. We'll try and point out the other kind of uses of sex or sexuality as a weapon when we encounter them. And I suppose they're in this sense they're kind of nuanced. They're to do with language, I think, So this says I need to leave early today. We'll listen to the rest of the conversation later. Thank you, Cynthia. Take it easy, and thanks very much for the email. That was another eye opener, much appreciated. And I haven't actually had a chance to read through the actual epilogue itself, or sorry, prologue itself, but I'm going to have a wee nosy at it after this. So thank you as always. But yeah, sorry, it occurred to me the monster isn't always a monster to the beauty, is she, or is it? Sorry. Scytale says, Princess, because of Edric here, your husband's oracular sight cannot stumble upon certain incidents, including this one, presumably. Presumably. And eyes closed. The Reverend Mother nodded. So Mohiam tells us that the phenomenon of prescience is poorly understood even by its initiates. And I suppose this is again directed at Edric in a funny kind of way. I am a full guild navigator and have the power, he says. So just to point out at this point that Edric has been called in this chapter. He is a guildsman, a steersman, and a navigator. He's been called all three of those. Obviously, because he's part of the guild. So his position, I would assume that a steersman is maybe different than a navigator, though it's possible that they are meant to be synonyms in this case, if you see what I mean. Mohiam, again, Reverend Mother opened her eyes. This time, she stared at the face dancer, eyes probing with peculiar Bene Gesserit intensity. She was weighing minutiae. And Scytale says, no, Reverend Mother, I am not as simple as I appeared. And I wonder that if everybody knows that he's a face dancer in the room, what's the point of the round, soft face? I suppose, if anything, he has to wear some kind of face, if you see what I mean. Irulan says, we don't understand the power of second sight. There's a point. Edric says, my husband cannot see, know, or predict what happens within the sphere of a navigator's influence. But how far does that influence extend? And that's what Edric says. The question is it true? And I think also there are people in this room who have truth sense as well. Edric says, there are people and things in our universe which I know only by their effects. His fish mouth held its thin line. We're told, I know they have been here, there, somewhere. As water creatures stir up the currents in their passage, so the prescients stir up time. I have seen where your husband has been. Never have I seen him, nor the people who truly share his aims and loyalties. But who's that? This is the concealment which an adept gives to those who are his. And I wrote down that was possessive, and then of course Scytale points it out for us immediately after. Irulan is not yours, and he looks sideways at the princess. So there is an attempt at what we would call coercion or coercive control in this, and some of it seems to come rather poorly from Edric, I think, but it seems to be almost a goal of his here. But and Scytale doesn't, I think, want that to happen. So Irulan is not yours. She's not your property, basically, and looks sideways at the princess. Again, almost conspiratorially within the conspiracy. Edric says, we all know why the conspiracy must be conducted only in my presence. And we're told, I like this, using voice mode for describing a machine. You have your uses, apparently. And that's Irulan. I thought that was quite interesting. Machine. The use of people as tools. For example, I think we've talked about within Dune. The Fremen as geomorphic agents, for example. But we have a voice mode within Miravasa language that can indicate, as opposed, I'm describing a machine as opposed to a person. And again, these little insults are all here, if you like. Scytale's thoughts are here that she sees him now for what he is. Good. The future is a thing to be shaped. Hold that thought, princess. And Irulan glanced at the face dancer. People who share Paul's aims and loyalties, certain of his Fremen legionaries, then wear his cloak. I have seen them prophesy for them, heard their cries of adulation for their Mahdi, their Muad'Dib. And Scytale's thoughts are here. It has occurred to her that she is on trial here, that a judgment remains to be made which could preserve her or destroy her. She sees the trap we set for her. And I think this is very interesting. If we go back to our repetition of plans within plans, motifs within Dune, what we have here is a trap. We've got a plan, a trap, and if indeed this is a trap for Irulan, if we think about what's said in Dune, that the first step in avoiding a trap is being aware of its existence. I suppose it seems to be an Atreides trait is then to step into that trap rather than to avoid it. But is she aware of it? It seems so. That this is a trap for Irulan potentially. And as much as we've just had this conversation about Edric, I suppose, sort of to his face, but not really. But the Irulan being quite, you have your uses apparently, and uses a tone of voice that describes him as a machine, as a tool. Irulan herself is a tool for the conspiracy, And I suppose the point is at this point. Sorry, I've got a very tickly nose. Is she hasn't fully committed to the conspiracy at this point, and they're trying to bring her on board. If she decides to not go about it, then would they kill her? Scytale's thoughts are: it remains to be made. Excuse me. A judgment remains to be made which could preserve her or destroy her. But he seems to be aware that she sees the trap we set for her, and also she sees him now for what he is. Good earlier. So her awareness is that she's definitely aware of what's going on. How much the Reverend Mother has briefed her here, I suppose, is kind of questionable. We're told Scytale momentarily his gaze locked with that of the Reverend Mother, and he experienced the odd realization that they had shared this thought about Irulan. So the Reverend Mother's thinking this way too. This could make her break her. This could get her killed. She sees the trap. The Bene Gesserit, of course, had briefed their princess, and that's a possessive term there. Primed her with the lie à droit. But the moment always came when a Bene Gesserit must trust her own training and instincts. I suppose she's been trained to be a skillful, clever liar, basically, is what he's saying there. But no matter how much you train somebody, I suppose it's very similar to young Paul Atreides. You can give them all the training in theory in the world, but there's a certain point where they've got to go out into the world on their own, trust their own training and instincts, do their own thing. So very similar introduction in that, in terms of how Dune is set up. We have our plans within plans within plans, our plots, if you like. We have the trap, and being aware that we have one of our main characters here talking about a trap potentially for her, and is she aware of this trap? So they're quite interesting sort of little parallels here between Dune and Dune Messiah. But we're about to get to the crux of it. How will she handle herself, I suppose, really is what Scytale is wondering. Edric says, Princess, I know what it is you most desire from the Emperor. And Irulan quite sarcastically says, who does not know it? And I suppose at this point in the book, it's us, I suppose. So we're going to get some exposition and so on. Let's see. So yeah, who doesn't know it? Is like, you tell me something I don't know. I think it's quite funny. So he's going to spell it out for us anyway, and I suppose this is, if we've got a few years between reading these books, this is how it would go for us. So Edric tells us anyway, you wish to be the founding mother of the royal dynasty, as though he hadn't heard her. Unless you join us, that will never happen. Take my oracular word on it. The emperor married you for political reasons, but you'll never share his bed. And Irulan said, so the oracle is also a voyeur, sneered at him. And Edric, so sneered and snapped back and forth here. There's a bit of rudeness going on. So the oracle is also a voyeur. Edric replies, the emperor is more firmly wedded to his Fremen concubine than he is to you. And snaps at her. And Irulan responds, and she gives him no heir. So a little bit of tit for tat there, a bit of back and forth. And our little conspiracy doesn't seem to be getting on too well. It's quite childish, actually, in some aspects, I think. And Edric seems to relish, I suppose, revel in his own power. But to me, it's quite childish. Oh, excuse me. Goodness gracious, beg you. I know what it is. I know what it is that you want. That kind of thing. Oh, who doesn't know it? Well, you want this, but you can't have it unless you join us. And you'll never share his bed. This is so you're a pervert. She's basically saying you're watching us. You're a voyeur. And then he snaps back because basically the answer to that I've written, by the way. So the oracle is also a voyeur. The answer to that is yes. But Edric says the emperor is more firmly wedded to his friend and concubine, it's Chani, of course, than he is to you, and snaps back, and she gives him nowhere. And I suppose this provocation, strong emotion, is going to bring this to the fore. And we talked about, I suppose we mentioned the other week, is Irulan a villain in Dune Messiah and Children of Dune? And initially, I suppose we could probably say yes, but mainly because of what she's about to say. But Scytale, and she gives him no heir, and Scytale lets her know reason is the first victim of strong emotion. So that's basically calm down. You're going to stop thinking the more angry you are. And he sensed the outpouring of Irulan's anger and saw his admonition take effect. So she gives him no heir. This time the voice measuring out controlled emotions. So she's bringing the anger under control. She gives him no heir because I am secretly administrating a contraceptive. Is that the sort of admission you wanted from me? So it's is that what you're looking for? You want some dirt, so that we can all have that kind of mutual blackmail kind of thing. They're playing games with each other here, aren't they? Edric says it not be a thing for the emperor to discover, smiling at her. And Irulan says, I have lies ready for him. He may have truth sense, but some lies are easier to believe than the truth. And we've discovered that if somebody believes something with truth sense, someone who is being interviewed with truth sense can repeat a lie to that person. As long as they believe it, it won't be detected as a lie. It will be detected as a truth. So that it's another thing that has limitations, I suppose. Yeah, but again, it really does suggest it's a bit like I think I was telling you about the wee story that I kind of wrote about a guy, something similar to prescience. It was sort of my response to Dune, was that he can see everybody's futures and pasts except his own. So it's one of those little kind of caveats, if you like. And his solution was to have 7 suits made, if you like, in the story, each one being unique and only ever worn by him. And so the cheat around it is he can't see his own future, but he can see the futures of the suits. And if he's the only person wearing The suits, basically, then he can see what happens to him must happen to him. It's one of those things, I think. So it is a bit. Oh, he can see all sorts, but not around me. This kind of thing. I've got some lies ready for him. It's also letting us know a bit more about his abilities. I suppose that the Emperor has truth sense. He can tell the truth. So here comes to it, I suppose. What is it that could preserve her or destroy her? Scytale says, "You must make the choice, princess, but understand what it is protects you." And Irulan says, "Paul is fair with me. I sit in his councils." Edric pokes again. "In the 12 years you've been princess consort, has he shown you the slightest warmth?" Irulan shook her head. I was put no there. So again, our 12-year time frame from the previous events of Dune. So Edric goes on. "He deposed your father with his infamous Fremen horde, married you to fix his claim to the throne, yet he has never crowned you empress." Scytale, "Elric tries to sway you with emotions, princess. Is that not interesting?" It is kind of, so he's kind of pointing out what he's doing, I suppose. Though I think Edric is quite obvious in this chapter. Maybe it's the way he's written, but I get the sense that he's not very good at interacting with these characters through them. Is possibly the reason why I was wondering, is it because he's not adept at the Mirabasa language? And is that possibly another one of what Scytale talks about at the beginning? Is why are they all speaking this language? Why are they all speaking Mirabasa instead of Gallic, which is the universal, the language of commerce and trade, etc. within this universe, the lingua franca. But he wonders, when it's back to the bit where he's wondering about this room's been built for Edric, and what's that say about the Bene Gesserit? It's actually more about what they're trying to point out to me about Edric. But I was wondering, is the choice, I don't know if you think of this as something worth considering, has it possibly been the choice of Mirabasa as a language is also a Bene Gesserit tactic, possibly, that will allows them to have better control? If it depends, I suppose, how fluent you are in this language would determine how well you do in any kind of negotiation or conspiracy, if you like. So he tries to sway you with emotions, princess. Is that not interesting? I suppose the question is, most of this is coming from Scytale's point of view, but probably we would think that she picked this up, being Bene Gesserit trained. So she glanced at the face dancer, saw the bold smile, his features, answered it with raised eyebrows. She was fully aware now, Scytale saw, that if she left this conference under Edric's sway, part of their plot, these moments might be concealed from Paul's oracular vision if she withheld commitment, though. So that's it. They need her to commit to this or not, and if she doesn't, you can see that if she leaves here under Edric's sway, part of their plot, under his protection, of his oracular vision, if you like, that these moments might be concealed, and it's not a definite. But later on, for example, there's a plot, I think, involved in some things against the God Emperor, and is it Malky, for example, just goes, yeah, but you know we're doing this, so shouldn't we just do it? This kind of thing, almost, if you have foreknowledge, I suppose it's like the foreknowledge. If your king has foreknowledge that you're going to attempt to assassinate him, if you know that he's got foreknowledge of that, should you do it just to make the thing happen? If you see, it starts to get a bit complicated, doesn't it? So she needs to commit. Scytale says, does it seem to you, princess, that Edric, I think I keep writing Eldric or Eldric, it's Edric, isn't it? I think I keep thinking this guy's Elric for some reason. I've written down Elric and Edric there. Edric, sorry, does it seem to you, Princess, that Edric holds undue sway in our conspiracy? So Scytale again's pointing out flaws here, and most of this is aimed at Edric, and we'll see for a reason. Edric says, I've already agreed that I'll defer to the best judgment offered in our council. Scytale says, well, who chooses that best judgment? Edric says, do you wish the princess to leave here without joining us? What are you at? And Mohiam says, he wishes her commitment to be a real one. I'm sure she growled. I quite like that. And I often wonder how much of that is a mask with Mohiam, or how much of it is a pretense for so-called anger, or this kind of thing. He wishes her commitment to be a real one. There should be no trickery between us. And we're told Scytale observes that Irulan had relaxed into a thinking posture. I quite like that. to relax into a thinking posture. Hands concealed in the sleeves of her robes. We talk about agency being represented in Dune often by hands, and we'll see a little bit of that in this. Partly, for example, we had the mention of the monstrous feet and hands of the guild. Etc. Hang on. But at this point, yeah, I think we have a few more that will turn up in this one. But she's basically done this. Put her hands into like a kind of wrap, isn't it, or something like that? Or into the sleeves of her robes. Yeah, it conceals. And I suppose the right hand and the left hand are both there, and so there's at this point there's a concealment, if you like, of Irulan's agency, of her power. What's she going to do? She's thinking. And of course, hands concealed in the sleeves of her robes. She would be thinking now of the bait that Edric had offered to found a royal dynasty. So this is what she's in it for. Of course, we know that she's been married to Paul in name only. And it's basically his route to the throne. And as long as he stays married to her, he has basically a right to that throne, if you like. But we'll find out a wee bit more about this. But this is what really Irulan's been trained her whole life to be something, I suppose. This is going to be interesting when we get to the Tleilaxu Kwisatz Haderach. If we think about this, that Irulan's been trained her entire life to be something, and then cannot be that. To found a royal dynasty, this is the bait that they're offering her. This is what she will get out of it. She'll be wondering what scheme the conspirators had provided to protect themselves from her. So you just have them all. My husband's the emperor, arresting, right now. So it's a two-way street in that sense, isn't it? She would be weighing many things. Irulan presently says, Scytale, it is said that your Tleilaxu have an odd system of honor. Your victims, there's that word again, must always have a means of escape. An odd system of honor. And of course, Scytale replies, if they can but find it. And Irulan asks a question here, am I a victim? And the bursts of laughter escapes from him as he snorted. Now, just back to that. This is we're getting little tidbits of information about the Tleilaxu here, the Bene Tleilaxu. Just very quickly, I suppose while we have it here, we grab Dune. The only kind of reference to them in Dune, while we have it here. Tleilaxu, there we go, is the lone planet of Thalam, noted as renegade training center for Mentats, source of twisted Mentat. I think we'll find out the twisted Mentat is a Gola. That's what Peter de Vries was, basically. You have I hear that you've got an odd system of honor. Your victims must always have a means of escape if they can find it. So that's a yes, basically, I think, from Scytale. Am I a victim? And he finds this hilarious. Edric says, Princess, whose voice softly persuasive, "You are already one of us. Have no fear of that. Do you not spy upon the imperial household for your Bene Gesserit superiors?" And Irulan responds with, "Well, Paul knows that I report to my teachers. But don't you give them the material for strong propaganda against your emperor?" Of course, the emphasis on the word "your" is picked up here by Scytale. This pronoun is your emperor, not our emperor. Not our emperor, your emperor. Irulan is too much of the Bene Gesserit to miss that slip. And I suppose little slips will happen, I think, in this chapter from others. Yeah, he's not our emperor is basically what the guild is saying there. Scytale says, the question is one of powers and how they may be used. And moving closer to the guildsman tank, we're told, we of the Tleilaxu believe that in all the universe, there is only the insatiable appetite of matter, that energy is the only true solid, and energy learns. Hear me well, princess, energy learns. This we call power. And I've just plunked that up here. There we go. Energy learns. Tleilaxu revelation. Giving stuff away about themselves. I suppose the question is, whenever they do, how much of it's true and how much of it's not? Is that part of a trap? But rather odd. The word victim is just, again, that the Tleilaxu, whoever they are, have victims. This we call power. Energy. Energy learns. Powers and how they may be used. So the different powers here, I suppose, in reference to it, Irulan has power here, Edric has power here, Scytale has power here. It's not overt, I suppose, yet, not obvious, and so probably do we assume as the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohiam, just by her position. So energy, and I put that was a little bit of a preachy speech. Irulan says, you haven't convinced me we can defeat the Emperor. And Scytale, and I think this is quite funny, he says, well, we haven't even convinced ourselves, which I think is quite funny. That made me laugh, and I think it kind of makes him, again, more human, doesn't it, I suppose? So this little speech here then from Irulan tells us a lot about Paul. Everywhere we turn, his power confronts us. He's the Kwisatz Haderach, the one who can be many places at once. He's the Mahdi, whose merest whim is absolute command to his Quizarati missionaries. He's the Mentat, whose computational mind surpasses the greatest ancient computers. He is Muad'Dib, whose orders to the Fremen legions depopulate planets. Oh, okay. He possesses oracular visions which see into the future. He has that gene pattern which we Bene Gesserits covet for. And she's interrupted here. And this is another slip, by the way. And I like the way that Frank does this in his writing. It's a nice little technique. We have a character make a slip, we have another one comment on it, and then we have another one that's dropped in but isn't commented on. That allows a character to kind of interrupt. And it's kind of funny that almost at the end of Dune, Mohiam herself does this. So it's what they give away. And what has Irulan said here that's, Paul Atreides possesses visions which he sees into the future. So she's fine with all of this up until she says this. He has the gene pattern which we Bene Gesserits covet for. She's interrupted. So the question is, which gene pattern, whose gene pattern, what is it? But Mohiam interrupts. We know his attributes. Dismissive, isn't it? And we know the abomination, his sister Alia, possesses this pattern. But they're also humans, both of them. Thus, they have weaknesses. So she still mentions the pattern there, but I think that the interruption, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but I think the interruption is definitely to how would I put it, to prevent Irulan from talking any further. And also, I thought that this was, as we see it, that both of them, also humans, both of them, they have weaknesses. If we go back to Bronzo of Ix in the first chapter, one of the big things is to really, the different things that are revealed here is that they're human. We should remember this. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. But there's that total prediction is lethal. I suppose all the different aspects of this lethal prophecy. Maybe it's someone else, but yes, the reminder that they're mortal, Ali, and is the same reminder here. Or did I get that from the alternative introduction? So we know the attributes, we know all this. We know that the above Alia also has the same gene pattern, but they're also humans, both of them. So they've got weaknesses. Okay. And where are these human weaknesses? Asks Scytale. Shall we search for them in the religious arm of his jihad? Can the Emperor's Quizara be turned against him? What about the civil authority of the great houses? Can the Landsraad Congress do more than raise a verbal clamour? So again, we've got a sort of mention of the main sort of political players, if you like, here. The Emperor's Quizara, the civil authority of the great houses, the Landsraad, etc. And here's Edric's suggestion here. Well, I suggest the Combine Honor Ober Advancer Mercantilis. Chum. I always like saying the word chum. It's got a nice sound to it, isn't it? Chum is business, and business follows profits. So, and of course, chum are very much linked to the guild, aren't they? Scytale says, or perhaps the Emperor's mother, the Lady Jessica, I understand, remains on Caladan, but is in frequent communication with her son. And this is quite interesting, this little bit, because the words kind of don't match but her voice is level in this, if you like, but you would expect more anger. That traitorous bitch, would I might disown my own hands, which trained her. That's from Mohiam. And I just put, well, that's not angry, is it? Or how much control is there? So where are their weaknesses? Where are the human weaknesses, if you like, is the questions that Scytale have asked. Are they in the religious arm of his jihad? Are they in the civil authority of the great houses? Landsraad. What about his mother? Our conspiracy requires a level. Mohiam says, we are more than conspirators. Yes, he agreed. We are energetic and we learn quickly. This makes us the one true hope, the certain salvation of humankind. And we're told that this is spoke in a speech mode for absolute conviction, perhaps the ultimate sneer, coming as it did from a Tleilaxu. The one true hope. It's kind of a hyperbolic statement, is it? It's putting a lot upon themselves. So only the Reverend Gaius Helen Mohiam appeared to understand the subtlety. Why? She asked, directing her question directly at Scytale. And before the faced answer could answer, Edric cleared his throat. So this is what he gets from what's just been said. Let us not bandy philosophical nonsense. I don't think that's what he said. Every question can be boiled down to the one. Why is there anything? Every religious, business, and governmental question has the single derivative. Who will exercise the power? Alliances, combines, complexes, they all chase mirages unless they go for the power. All else is nonsense, as most thinking beings come to realize. Power. It's all worthless unless you, whatever it is you want, it's ephemeral, but it doesn't matter if you don't have the power, is what he's basically saying. That's why. Why are we the par? Now, again, I think Edric's constantly missing the nuances of what's being said here. We're told that Scytale shrugged, but it was a gesture solely designed for the Reverend Mother. Edric had answered her question for him. The pontificating fool was their major weakness. To make sure the Reverend Mother understood, Scytale said, "Listen carefully to the teacher. One acquires an education." You'll almost just go a chunk of sarcasm with that. Listening carefully to the teacher. One acquires an education, doesn't one? This kind of thing. And the Reverend Mother nodded slowly. In other words, he's a fool. She understands it. Edric goes on here. "Princess, make your choice. You have been chosen as an instrument," tools again, "an instrument of destiny, the very finest." And he's trying to butter her up a bit here. Irulan says, "Save your praise. Save your praise for those who can be swayed by it. Earlier, you mentioned a ghost, a revenant, with which we may contaminate the Emperor. Explain this." Edric says, "The Atreides will defeat himself." He crowed. So he's a bit full of himself, isn't he? He likes to talk too much, I think, is Edric's problem. And Irulan basically says, "Stop talking riddles," she snapped. "What is this ghost?" "A very unusual ghost. It has a body and a name. The body, that's the flesh of a renowned swordmaster known as Duncan Idaho. The name." See, the way he feeds information, he's trying to, it's almost like for, suspense belief, as if he's trying to tell a story, isn't it? "Idaho's dead," says Irulan. "Paul has mourned the loss often in my presence. He saw Idaho killed by his father's Sardaukar. Even in defeat, your father's Sardaukar did not abandon wisdom," says Edric. "Let us suppose a wise Sardaukar commander recognized the swordmaster in a corpse his men had slain. What then? There exists uses for such flesh and training, if one acts swiftly. A Tleilaxu Gola?" Irulan whispered, looking sideways at Scytale. So Gola, again, we could think of something like a ghoul here. A ghost, we all know what a ghost is. A revenant is a kind of an undead spirit that comes back to the land of the living for mutual revenge, isn't it, I think? So yeah, this is what we've got coming here is a Tleilaxu Gola. This is the ghost, the revenant that they're talking about. Scytale, then, observing her attention, we're told, exercised his face dancer powers, the shape flowing into shape, flesh moving and readjusting, and presently a slender man stood before her. Face remained somewhat round, but darker and with slightly flattened features. High cheekbones formed shelves for eyes with a definite epicanthic folds. His hair was black and unruly. A Gola of this appearance, says Edric, and points to Scytale. Or merely another face dancer, asks Irulan. So that he's taken the form of Duncan Idaho here to demonstrate what they're doing. And Edric's doing all the gushing, I suppose. Scytale just takes the form, but we'll have Edric doing a lot of the talking here. Here we go. So no face dancer. Again, how would you know, I suppose, is the interesting thing, Edric. A face dancer risks exposure under prolonged surveillance. So this is Edric showing his knowledge, I suppose, of the Tleilaxu face dancers, and you kind of wonder how much of it is real, I suppose. Some of it does make sense, though. So a face dancer risks exposure under prolonged surveillance. No, let us assume our wise Sardaukar, he was pontificating again, had Idaho's corpse preserved for the axolotl tanks. Why not? This corpse held the flesh and nerves of one of the finest swordsmen in history, an advisor to the Atreides, a military genius. What a waste to lose all that training and ability when it might be revived as an instructor for the Sardaukar. So I suppose there's the intent, if you like, there's the value in the corpse. And Irulan says, I heard not a whisper of this, and I was one of my father's confidants. Ah, but your father was a defeated man, and within a few hours you had been sold to the new emperor. And Irulan demands, was it done? So another little dig at Irulan there. She's property. She's been sold from Edric. And you do get the sense that as much as she is a princess, he looks down on her, I think. With a maddening air of complacency, Edric said, let us presume, here he goes again. This guy's long-winded, isn't he? Let us presume that our wise Sardaukar commander, knowing the need for speed, immediately sent the preserved flesh of Idaho to the Bene Tleilaxu. Let us suppose further that the commander and his men died before conveying this information to your father, who couldn't have made much use of it anyway. There would remain then a physical fact, a bit of flesh which had been sent off to the Tleilaxu. There was only one way for it to be sent, of course, on a highliner. We of the guild naturally know every cargo we transport. Learning of this one, would we not think it additional wisdom to purchase the Gola as a gift befitting an emperor? So there we go. So we've got our first little skull of the book, by the way, is there we go. The Sardaukar commander and his men. There's our first actual victims that are mentioned, I suppose, apart from billions or people on planets, etc. Suggestion is that they've been bumped off by the Tleilaxu, haven't they? So, Sardaukar officers grabbed Duncan Idaho's body, realized its worth, that it could probably be made into a Gola that could be an instructor for the Sardaukar. They've taken it, him and his men have taken it to the Bene Tleilaxu, who it seems to have murdered them and taken the body and created the Gola anyway. At which point the guild, who've been aware of this the whole time, have decided to buy it from the Bene Tleilaxu. So there we go. That's the gist of that. So you've done it then. They have. Scytale resumed his roly-poly first appearance. So he's back to the original shape. As our long-winded friend indicated, we've done it. And Irulan asks a question here. How has Idaho been conditioned? Edric looking at the Tleilaxu. Idaho? Do you know of an Idaho, Scytale? Scytale says, we sold you a creature called hate. Ah, yes, hate. Why did you sell him to us? Scytale says, because we once bred a Kwisatz Haderach of our own, which is another revelation which is quite important. So this Duncan Idaho Gola is not called Duncan Idaho, it's called Hate, Hayt. And I think there's enough suggestion in the name hatred, if you like, that it's something negative. Ooh, excuse me. And possibly a bit obvious, maybe designed to provoke a line of questioning. Why are you called hate? That's an odd name. Why not peace and love or something like that? Or, piano, that kind of thing, So, because we once bred a Kwisatz Haderach of our own, why did you sell them to us? Because we've had one. We don't want it. It's basically what he says. The suggestion there is possibly that this Gola could be a Kwisatz Haderach. And that this is part of how. We're going to find out a bit about it. But yes, of course, the Bene Tleilaxu have bred a Kwisatz Haderach. Mohiam, very much. You didn't tell us that. She accused, as it says, with a quick movement of her old head. She looked at him. Well, you didn't tell us that. This is going to be interesting. Scytale's remark, of course, you didn't ask, which is being a bit of a smart ass. Irulan asks, well, how did you overcome your Kwisatz Haderach? And we get this statement from Scytale. A creature who has spent his life creating one particular representation of his selfdom will die rather than become the antithesis of that representation. So I thought that was kind of interesting, this comment here, especially in what we thought about Irulan a wee moment or two ago, that she has spent her entire life being bred for, educated, trained for one particular representation of herselfdom, which is to become the mother to the emperor and to found the dynasty of the Kwisatz Haderach, if you like, to become the mother of a race, a family of super beings. So the description that we have of Scytale by Scytale here of the Tleilaxu Kwisatz Haderach isn't that far off that of Irulan, really. Edric says, "I do not understand." And Mohiam says, with a growl, "He killed himself." And we have another little. There's our next little skulls. Our Kwisatz Haderach Tleilaxu. There we go. Now, interesting. So this is a Kwisatz Haderach, a Tleilaxu Kwisatz Haderach, something very like Paul. We haven't quite had the question that Irulan asked, which is how has it been conditioned? In other words, how have you trained it? What information have you put into it? And I've got, this is the bit from Erewhon that we're going to read. So let's grab Erewhon, folks. Oh dear. God, I hope somebody's still there. You've all been quiet for a while. If anybody's still there, give us a wee say hello. if not too, I'm sure some of you are just listening. Let's see. So, a creature who spent his life creating one particular representation of himself and will die rather than become the antithesis of that representation. I don't understand, says Edric. Killed himself, says Mohiam. This is the point where Scytale warns, "Follow me well, Reverend Mother." Now, I've just written down, see Erewhon, chapter 19, The World of the Unborn, page 167 and page 168. If one happens, the edition of Erewhon that I have is the Penguin Classics one there. There we go. Let me see. 167. A couple of nice wee things here. One of them, I thought I'd just read prior to this. Let me see. Where are we? There we go. That's the race of being. So we talk about how so much of this book is taken from Erewhon. Just very quickly, I'm going to read you. This is the wee bit on time, I suppose, but then we'll read specifically this paragraph, which is on the next page. This is from The World of the Unborn. The Erewhonians say that we are drawn through life backwards, or again that we go onwards into the future as into a dark corridor. Time walks beside us and flings back shutters as we advance, but the light thus given often dazzles us and deepens the darkness which is in front. We can see but little at the time and heed that little far less than our apprehension of what we shall see next. Ever peering curiously through the glare of the present into the gloom of the future, we presage the leading lines of that which is before us, by faintly reflected lights from dull mirrors that are behind, and stumble on as we may till the trapdoor opens beneath us and we are gone. It says, when the scene is past, we think we know it, though there is so much to see and so little time to see it, that our conceit of knowledge as regards the past is for the most part poorly founded. Neither do we care about it greatly, save in so far as it may affect the future wherein our interest mainly lies. Now, that's just that. I thought that was an interesting wee bit about time and so on there. It says the Erewhonians say it was by chance only that the earth and stars and all the heavenly worlds began to roll from east to west and not from west to east. And in like manner, they say it by chance that man is drawn through life with his face to the past instead to the future. For the future is there as much as the past, only that we may not see it. Is it not in the loins of the past, and must not the past alter before the human can do so? So there we go. This is the first page. Now, this is in particular this little bit here about the people of Erewhon, the Erewhonians that come before them, and these are the prescient beings. So this is this little paragraph, and of course what happens to them is almost identical as what we've just been told. Sometimes, again, they say that there was a race of men tried upon the earth once, who knew the future better than the past. but that they died in a 12-month from the misery which their knowledge caused them. And if any were to be born too prescient now, he would be culled out by natural selection before he had time to transmit so peace-destroying a faculty to his descendants. Strange fate for man. He must perish if he get that, which he must perish if he strive not after. If he strive not after it, he is no better than the brutes. If he get it, he is more miserable than the devils. There you go. Isn't Samuel Butler a rather good writer? I think, but that's his description of the race of beings who are prescient. Within 12 months, they've all killed themselves, and I think that's a very, very much. As we understand what we're talking about here, we are talking about a Kwisatz Haderach. Spend one particular representation, so it will die rather than becoming the antithesis of that representation. Gaius, Helen, Mohiam reads between the lines, no problem. Killed himself, couldn't take it, couldn't handle it, couldn't cope, drove him mad. Take your pick. And I think it's a very interesting little thing. And again, as we see from, we talk about what's lifted from Samuel Butler, prescience, Erewhon, looking into the future, and then also if such a being could come exist again, we'll cull them. We don't let these; they're too dangerous for society. If you think about the Gom Jabbar and the Kwisatz Haderachs, it is an attempt to cull them, isn't it? But the particularly dangerous ones. I think it's fascinating. If anybody really just, it's a great book. I haven't read it in over, don't know, about 13 years since I last read it. Very good pastoral utopia science fiction. Erewhon. Dune takes so much from it, There's Carlos saying it's almost sadistic that Tleilaxu master geneticists gave hate metal eyes as a constant reminder of his original loss. Yeah, that's the thing. We're going to run with the metal eyes in this, aren't we? And yeah, it's kind of I don't know. It's a very weird gift, isn't it? And also learn more about the Tleilaxu Kwisatz Haderachs. Well, what we can get the gist of there is that they're most likely Golas. Who they've used prior to this, we don't know. But certainly the intent is to use. They're equating the idea of a Duncan Idaho Gola with a Kwisatz Haderach here. If you see what I mean, why did you sell it? That's if we pay careful attention to what they say. Edric's kind of trying to, let us reveal our secrets together. They're keeping Irulan in as much of the dark as possible and revealing tidbits to her. But I.S. hate, why did you sell him to us? And his response is because we once bred a Kwisatz Haderach of our own. That one's yours. There's the subtext there. Reading between the lines is that the thing that you have is a Kwisatz Haderach. And why did we sell it to you? Because we had one once, let's see what this one does, I suppose. But you can deal with. I think also the fact that the Tleilaxu are willing to sell it to the guild, that's part of another plot within a plot, isn't it? Is that ultimately they made it, but who's going to get blamed for it? Is it it's the person who presents the gift, really, isn't it? Usually. So it's a very interesting thing, and I think it's a big connection there. The Bene Tleilax Kwisatz Haderachs bear a remarkable similarity to the race of the pre-Erewhonians who are all prescient. Both have the same abilities and both suffer the same fate. And there's so much. It's so much from from Erewhon in Dune. I think it's very interesting. Such a bizarre thing, by the way. As much as I'd love to learn more about the Tleilaxu Kwisatz Haderach, they are the pre-Erewhonians. What on earth is that about? And to find it in Erewhon. Oh, by the way, there was once a race of beings here, and they could see into the future before us. Just to let you know. And they all killed themselves because they went mad. knew the future better than the past, but they died in a 12-month from the misery which their knowledge caused them. So it's not overtly saying that, but it's totally implied that they all died from misery, suicide, I think. Either that or they just died of pure misery. But I think the strong implication there is suicide, And so I think that's also why is the guild happy to sell? Sorry, why is the Tleilaxu happy to sell the guild? Of course, that's if it kills itself, it's not really as advertised, is it? It doesn't quite work. So they're selling faulty goods. Maybe from their point of view, maybe it'll help them refine the process. Now, immediately after Mohiam says he killed himself, we have an interesting thing. Scytale warned, we're told, "Follow me well, Reverend Mother," like that. And again, this, I think this is a great, excuse me, it's a great little literary device. This Mirabasa language, this wonderful language. Follow me well, Reverend Mother, using a voice mode which said, here we go, "You are not a sex object, have never been a sex object, cannot be a sex object." Okay. Now, we'll just run through this a little bit just to get to where we need to be with it, and then we'll backtrack. The Tleilaxu waited for the blatant emphasis to sink in. She must not mistake his intent. Realization must pass through anger into awareness that the Tleilaxu could not make such an accusation, knowing as he must the breeding requirements of the sisterhood. His words, though, contained a gutter insult, completely out of character for a Tleilaxu. Just learned another thing about the Tleilaxu. I've put it's not really an insult in that sense. Follow me well, Reverend Mother. This kind of thing. And then we have swiftly, I said we'll backtrack in a wee second here, using Mirabasa placative mode, Edric tried to smooth the moment. So this is him again misreading this. "Scytale, you told us you sold hate because you shared our desire on how to use him." And at this point, he's talking too much, I think. Scytale's response is, "Edric, you will remain silent until I give you permission to speak." And he starts to protest, but Gaius Mohiam, "Shut up, Edric." But actually, I've made a wee comment here. I wonder, does she use a bit of voice here? "Edric, you will remain silent until I give you permission to speak." That's control. And Mohiam, "Shut up, Edric." That's also control. And the guildsman drew back into his tank in flailing agitation. So the point of what's just happened. "Follow me well, Reverend Mother. You're not a sex object. You've never been a sex." So this is using the voice mode which said. So this is some kind of tonal shift or emotive shift within this Mirabasa language. "Follow me well, Reverend Mother. Pay attention," is what he's saying. And within this, the mode is it's that you're not I suppose previous we've just had Irulan using a tone for a machine, if you like, with Edric. So imagine that this is a tone that produces a completely non-sexual, non-threatening, romantic, this kind of thing that it almost would be like a scientific tone or something like that, I think. It's a tone that should say to the Reverend Mother, "You're not a sex object, have never been a sex object, cannot be a sex object." But what he's basically saying is, follow my lead here. These remarks aren't about Gaius Mohiam at all. The clue in it is the blatant emphasis. He's being over the top. It's an insult. He has to wait for her to absorb it, basically, for her to realize, as it's put here, once she gets through her anger, that there's an awareness that he wouldn't ever say this. So why has he said it? Why is this Tleilaxu saying this to me, knowing as he well knows that the breeding requirements of the sisterhood? In other words, Gaius Helen Mohiam has at one point been a sex object. Does that make sense? Has been viewed as a sex job. So the whole point of her being a sex object, as a reverend mother, as a trained in seduction, having children, etc., the whole biology, the whole of birth, everything about it, is that this is nonsense. Why would he say something such to me? And then the added, I suppose, it doesn't make any sense for the Tleilaxu to say this, but also the fact that there's a gutter insult. He wouldn't say that either. So what's the hidden meaning? For her to let this sink in, that there is a hidden meaning. So it's not really an insult, and it's not about her sexuality, or you old crone who would want to have sex with you. If you wanted to paraphrase, if you like, what we're basically being told here. We're also being told it's completely out of character for a Tleilaxu. So why make it? It's a realization of what? Is it misdirection, false perceptions? But I think basically the comment is about Edric, and that he does not understand. And Edric is not a sex object, by the way. If you want to get this. As much as Irulan has made the comment about him being a machine, he's not a machine, he's in one. But he's not a sex object. I suppose in that sense, never been a sex object cannot be a sex object. Probably goes in line with your Scytale's own curious ponderings about how Irulan might view Edric's sexuality. How does he make love in a tank? This kind of thing. I suppose it does raise lots of questions, but it's really just letting us know that within this language, and it ends up with both of them threatening this guy. They're not threatening, just telling him to shut up and presenting a level of contempt. I think. And it's almost as if Scytale's talking too much. I think as well. Oh, sorry, Edric is talking too much. So Scytale continues. Our own transient emotions aren't pertinent to a solution of the mutual problem. They cloud reasoning because the only relevant emotion is the basis, fear, which brought us to this meeting. And I think that's interesting because we always talk about fear is the mind killer. Question that asks is, what is the basis fear? What are they afraid of? Of course, it's Paul Muad'Dib. It's the Emperor. Irulan says, we understand. Glancing at the Reverend Mother. She gets it. We need to work together, I suppose. But there's a weakness here. You must see the dangerous limitations of our shield. It's Edric. The oracle cannot chance upon what it cannot understand. But what does this mean? It basically means he didn't get that. Does that make sense? Edric just whatever's gone on here between Scytale and Reverend Gaius Helen Mohiam has gone over Edric's head. Hence, he didn't understand earlier. I do not understand. He's shifted tact and he's trying to sort of seem more powerful by revealing more secrets that Irulan doesn't know, if you like. But Irulan says, we understand. And yes, they do. Edric doesn't, so he's separated himself out here. You must see the dangerous limitations of our shield. Edric, he cannot chance upon what it cannot understand. He's not that bright. It's not about, it's more, and Irulan saying you're devious, Scytale. And Scytale's thoughts are, well, how devious she must not guess. So there's more to this. We've already got the sense from the start of the chapter that there's a plot that hasn't been launched yet by Scytale. How devious she must not guess. When this is done, we will possess a Kwisatz Haderach we can control. These others will possess nothing. And a Kwisatz Haderach, again, possession and control, the Tleilaxu plot. Again, I'm pretty sure that they mean Paul here, but the potential is also possible. There's another one that hate the Duncan Idaho Gola is a potential Kwisatz Haderach as well. Mohiam asks, what was the origin of your Kwisatz Haderach? So we kind of want to know a bit more. And this is quite interesting, I think. We've dabbled in various pure essences, pure good and pure evil. A pure villain who delights only in creating pain and terror can be quite educational. So various pure essences, for example, pure good, pure evil. It doesn't seem to see that they've dabbled with anything in between, if that makes sense. So Irulan almost to me, this is quite a good one. Irulan, so pure good, a pure villain who delights in creating pain and terror. And here's where she goes. The old Baron Harkonnen, our Emperor's grandfather, was he a Tleilaxu? You don't mean him, do you? I think that's quite good. And Scytale's response is, no, not one of ours. But then nature often produces creations as deadly as ours. We merely produce them under conditions where we can study them. And I put, is that in a laboratory? But the Baron, the suggestion here is the Baron is a villain of pure evil who delights in creating pain and terror. I wouldn't agree. I wouldn't make that. I don't think that's a correct description of the Baron at all. But it's interesting for Irulan to go there, probably again, being part of Paul's household, I suppose, and learning of her father and the Baron's plotting against all sorts of things. So I just thought it was interesting that she went straight to the Baron. Edric kind of manages the butt in again here. I will not be passed by and treated this way. Who is it hides this meeting from? So again, his self-importance. Interrupted again. You see, says Scytale, whose best judgment conceals us? What judgment? And that's mocking Edric quite badly, I think. And we get shift, I suppose, not a change of subject, but Edric wanting to get back on topic. I wish to discuss our mode of giving hate to the Emperor. He insisted. It's my understanding that hate reflects the old morality that the Atreides learned on his birth world. That's Caladan. Hate is supposed to make it easy for the Emperor to enlarge his moral nature, to delineate the positive and negative elements of life and religion. And Scytale smiled, we're told, passing a benign gaze over his companions. They were as he'd been led to expect. So just stopping before we get into Scytale's sizing up of everyone here. Hate, Duncan Idaho Gola, is meant to reflect the old morality. That's, as best as we can tell, Atreides' values from Caladan. He's supposed to make it easier for the Emperor to enlarge his moral nature. That's very interesting, to delineate the positive and negative elements of life and religion. And I think also what's interesting is seeing that the positive aspect you could look at is life, the negative aspect is religion there, So it's to enlarge his morality. The question is he not very moral, I suppose, So here's his thoughts. He passes a benign gaze, benignity, benevolence, these kind of words associated with Scytale in this chapter. It doesn't seem to quite fit right, does it? There were, as he'd been led to expect, we're told, that kind of means, I would ask, by who? Who's led him to expect them? So the old Reverend Mother, we're told, wielded her emotions like a scythe, and as he's been led to expect. Irulan had been well trained for a task at which she had failed, a flawed Bene Gesserit creation, as he'd been led to expect, and Edric no more and no less than the magician's hand. And there's another one of references to hands and agency, a magician's hand, though. And this isn't a hand of power. And again, Irulan's hands being concealed. We have Edric as the magician's hand, which is to conceal, to dupe, to distract, that kind of thing, if you like. So not the power, but the thing that you should look at while the power is doing, if you see what I mean. And I suppose in that sense there has a trap being set for Edric here, I think. So we get a fair little bit of back and forth here. This is what I've called Irulan's Q&A, if you like, and it's just a bouncing back and forth between her and Scytale. There's a fair amount of dialogue, folks, as we head towards it. Well, we're getting there. We're heading towards the end of the chapter. Do I understand, Irulan says, and this is really giving us about power groups and the ancient hatreds, I suppose, that come up here. Do I understand that this hate is intended to poison Paul's psyche? More or less, says Scytale. And what of the Quizerati? He says, it requires only the slightest shift in emphasis, a glissade of the emotions to transform envy into enmity. Pardon me. Oh, now that's a great word, isn't it? A glissade is a gliding step in ballet in which one foot slides forwards, sideways, or backwards. Is also a controlled slide down a snow slope. Isn't that what a great word? Let me just see. What's the etymology? Oh, excuse me a second, folks. Just look at it. I just thought, yeah, some words. I just used, yes, from French. Have we got anything further back? Glissade. No, nothing further from that. So, a way of sliding down a steep slope or snow of ice, typically on the feet with the support of an ice axe, and is also a ballet term, a movement typically used as a joining step in which one leg is brushed outwards from the body, which then takes the weight while the second leg is brushed into meat. There you go. Let's see it. The slip, slide in French. Aha. It's a good word, isn't it? I like it. Glissade. It's look-a-zade. As that kind of thing. So it requires only the slightest shift in emphasis, a glissade of the emotions to transform envy into enmity. So yeah, their own jealousy, basically, if you like, will work against them. So that's the Quizerati. And Chom asks Irulan. So this is the different power groups and how they'll probably respond. Scytale says they will rally around profit. It's been already pointed out they'll go where the money is. Irulan says, what of the other power groups? Well, Scytale says, one invokes the name of government. We will annex the less powerful in the name of morality and progress. Our opposition will die of its own entanglements. So there you go, straight away. What about anybody who's, any power groups who are against us? Yeah, we'll annex those who are not that powerful, and we'll do so in the name of morality and progress. And then, of course, Alia too, Irulan asks. And here we get a little bit of more info here. Scytale says, hate is a multi-purpose gola. The Emperor's sister is of an age when she can be distracted by a charming male designed for that purpose. She will be attracted by his maleness and by his abilities as a mentat. Aha. So a little bit of revealed information here. 12 years go by. If Ali is 3 or 4 the last time we saw her, that makes her 15 or 16, I suppose, at this point. So she's been through puberty, basically, and she's a teenager, isn't it? That's the way they're going. And here's this man will distract her. So as much as he's psychic poison for Paul, he is a sexual, used as a sexual weapon against Ali. And yeah, so we've had these odd little, I think that's the third one now. We've had sort of the nature, I suppose, the questioning, the putting down of, if you like, Edric and his Scytale wondering about what Irulan's wondering about his sexuality.
we've had this sort of comment about this: you're not a sex object. Being a sex object cannot be a sex object. And then we have a literal sort of weapon to be used against Alia, as the goal is going to be manipulating her in a sexual way. She will be attracted to his maleness, but also his abilities as a mentat. So it is a physical and mental design to this Gola as well, to entice her. And we've just found out a piece of information, which is that this Gola is a mentat. And Mohiam allowed her eyes to go wide. The Gola is a mentat. That's a dangerous move. Now, that's a really, really interesting statement to make, because if we know that, if we take what kind of Scytale has just said there, that there's a connection between the Gola and the Kwisatz Haderach. We've got a Gola, but you can have him. Why are you selling it to us? Oh, we've had our own Kwisatz Haderach. The suggestion is that almost to Scytale that they're synonymous, if you like, though we know they're not. The point I suppose we're trying to get to is if this is a problem for Mohiam here, this Gola being a mentat, so is Paul Atreides. So he's a mentat as well. That's a dangerous move. And maybe that's just a statement of the obvious, because they now know that, well, we've got one too, I suppose. The Kwisatz Haderach's a mentat now. Look what he's done. Irulan says, to be accurate, a mentat must have accurate data. What if Paul asks him to define the purpose behind our gift? And Scytale says, hate will tell the truth. Irulan says, so you leave an escape door open for Paul. And Mohiam says, a mentat. And she's muttering, this multi-purpose Gola. There's Rolando Sada, sorry. Rolando, how are you doing? How do you do? He says, Rolando. Doc, even. Howdy, Doc. I'm getting tongue-tied today, Rolando. How are you doing, sir? Hope you're keeping well. With his ability, can you believe that Paul is keeping some hold on his sister? I'm going to say maybe no. What I get from the end of June, just Rolando, just the last little bits with Alia, is that she's beyond him. I think that she can hide from him in some ways. I get the suggestion to me is that Alia, the last time we saw her, is potentially more powerful than Paul. I suppose the blind spot, maybe we're thinking about the no gene. But remember, there's the bit where she's able to kind of go all the way forward and leave a message for Paul in the future. Basically says, you can't see me here. Nobody can see me here. This kind of thing. As Carlos said, well, Duncan was famously irresistible to women. I was reading an interesting thing. Duncan Idaho's name just comes from the Idaho River, and the idea was to just give him a name that would kind of apply to a locus that was typical of kind of certain characters, like there'd be names like Dutch or Scotty, or I suppose Paddy, that kind of thing. These kind of things. So there you go. But yeah, and I think Duncan comes from Macbeth probably. But yes, he is famously irresistible to women. I think that I don't know. I think Duncan Idaho, for anybody who's, I think Duncan Idaho was really well cast in David Lynch's Dune. I know he doesn't look like Duncan Idaho, but in terms of who's been cast, Jason Momoa, I think that's a bad decision. I think he's great. I've watched him in loads of things, but I don't know if he can carry off Duncan's character post Dune, if you see what I mean, on down the line. Duncan can be quite an intellectual character, as well as a physical one, if you see what I mean. But I never pictured him looking like Jason Momoa, I have to say. But I don't know if how that's going to work. I think they'll only take the film so far, I think. Yeah. So hate will tell the truth regardless because he's a mentat, and possibly more. And this is part of the escape. So he could also be the thing that brings this conspiracy down. Maybe Scytale would be fine with that, if you see what I mean. Take out a few of the Emperor's enemies wouldn't probably bother them. Scytale, we're told, glanced at the old Reverend Mother, seeing the ancient hates which coloured her responses, her prejudices, from the days of the Butlerian Jihad, when thinking machines had been wiped from most of the universe, not all. Computers had inspired distrust. Computers aren't thinking machines, I'll just go there. But old emotions colored the human computer as well. So the suggestion there from Scytale is that the prejudices that you get from the Butlerian Jihad in relation to thinking machines, AI, if you like, are machines that think very close work and process information very closely to the way a human might. That those same hatreds, ancient distrusts, ancient prejudices have rolled over to the mentat, is what I'm kind of getting there. That the coloured her responses from the old emotions coloured the human computer as well. Yeah, so it's interesting that I suppose that the fear and hatred of the thinking machines from the Butlerian Jihad, one of the responses to that was the creation of the school of mentats, wasn't it? But there's still that level of mistrust and dislike, perhaps, that old emotions that follow have been attached to them. Based on the mentats in June, I wouldn't have one anywhere near me. I think they'd be a highly unreliable thing to have. No, I wouldn't mind them teaching my kids or something, but everything else would be. I wouldn't put my life in their hands. I think the idea that you can never have what is it? The idea that the limit, everything's got its limitations, doesn't it? But the limitations of the mentat are basically what you would convey in the computer sentence: garbage in, garbage out. If they don't have sufficient data, sufficient information to work from, they're not going to produce the correct results. But simply put, in a universe this large, they're never going to have all the factors. I think that would be obvious from the start. Now, what we get here from Mohiam is quite this is an attack. I think it's almost threatening. If you think about it, I do not like the way you smile. Abruptly speaking in the truth mode, as she glared up at Scytale. So looking up at him, I don't like the way you smile. That's quite a I don't like you, I don't trust you. There's more to that than just I don't like you. In the same mode, Scytale says back to her, and I think less of what pleases you, but we must work together. We all see that. And he glanced at the guildsman. Don't we, Edric? And Edric says, you teach painful lessons. I presume you wish to make it plain that I must not assert myself against the combined judgments of my fellow conspirators. Scytale goes, you see, he can be taught. They're quite condescending to him, aren't they? And Edric doesn't like this. He growls here. I see other things as well. The Atreides holds a monopoly on the spice. Without it, I cannot probe the future. The Bene Gesserit lose their truth sense. We have stockpiles, but those are finite. Melange is a powerful coin. Excuse me. And our civilization, says Scytale, has more than one coin. Thus, the law of supply and demand fails. There's a bit, it's a revelation here, isn't it? If we would go that's a monopoly, excuse me, and it's interesting that civilizations do operate with more than one coin. Whatever country you're in, you buy and sell probably with pounds or dollars or yen or whatever currency it is, but there are other currencies. And the ultimate currency, by the way, is time. Regardless of how you work or whatever, the thing that you sell is your time. your skills as well. But I always find it interesting that everybody's time on this earth is finite, and therefore equally valuable if we're all unique, if you see what I mean. So why does anybody get paid more than anyone else? Is one way of looking at it. But yeah, so how much of this is almost the stage? But our civilization is more than one coin. That's the law of supply and demand feels, certainly within the chat about Milan's. This response is enough for Mohiam to figure this out. And she wheezes out, "You seek to steal the secret of it. And him with the planet guarded by his mad Fremen, you want to steal the secret of Milan." So that's what you're after, Scytale, isn't it? Get rid of the power altogether. I think it's one of our long-term plots within Dune, one of our long-term goals, and ultimately we will see a form of artificial melange, not in this, but way down the road. And again, it's an interesting thing if you want to think about it. That thread, that plot thread starts right here. It'll lead to artificial melange and other things like share, isn't it? The drug which prevents people from having their memories checked post mortem. Excuse me. And Scytale, well, mad Fremen, his response is this. Again, this is quite insightful, I think, for Scytale. The Fremen are civil, educated, and ignorant. They're not mad. They're trained to believe, not to know. Belief can be manipulated. Only knowledge is dangerous. You could exchange the word Fremen for the Northern Irish there. I thought I was reading that earlier. It was quite funny. The Northern Irish are civil, educated, and ignorant. They're not mad. They train to believe, not to know. Belief can be manipulated, and only knowledge is dangerous. It's an interesting thing. I could also rewrite that again. The Northern Irish are uncivil, educated, and ignorant. They are mad, but trained to believe. The things you see of your own society sometimes. It's funny. Only knowledge is dangerous. What they don't know, what they imagine, what they have faith in, what they believe in, that's one thing. Knowledge is dangerous here with them, but they're not mad, is what he's saying. They're not, they're not the lesser thing that she thinks of them, I suppose. But will I be left with something to father a royal dynasty? Is what she's asking Irulan. Will there be anything left after this? They all heard the commitment in her voice, but only Edric smiled at it. Now, that's what they've been seeking this whole time, if you like. As we're nearing the end of the chapter, the potential threat to the conspiracy at this point is, of course, Irulan, because she hasn't really fully committed to, hasn't joined it. The potential threat to the conspiracy up to this point is Irulan, because she could probably have them all arrested. So, what will I be left with something to father a royal dynasty? Well, am I going to be able to get what I want out of this? That's the commitment. But Edric smiles at it. He feels that he's been doing the manipulation. And I think interesting within the exchanges that have been going on within this is that Edric is the weakest part of this group, who thinks he's the strongest and thinks that he's doing the most manipulation. His fluency, shall we say, his ability to understand the subtleties and subtext of Mirabassa language seem to be rather poor compared to everyone else. There are things being said which are not what they're not being said at all, and he's not got it. So everything's kind of worked against him here. Will I be left with something to father a royal dynasty? Something, says Scytale, which is a little bit ominous, I thought. Edric says it means the end of the Atreides as a ruling force. And you're starting to get the fact that, Edric isn't really, he almost sounds quite stupid there, I think, Scytale says, I should imagine that others have left. Sorry, I should imagine that others less gifted as oracles have made that prediction. For them, Mektub al-Mela, as the Fremen say. And Irulan translates for us, the thing was written with salt. And as she spoke, Scytale recognized what the Bene Gesserit had arranged here for him. So as much as this building has been set to point out Edric's obvious weaknesses, I think it's been designed that way for the Bene Gesserit, Irulan's presence here is also designed to point something out to him, I suppose. That she's a beautiful and intelligent female who could never be his. She'll never be his property. And again, thinking of her as property, and his thoughts are, well, perhaps I'll copy her for another. And that's the end of our chapter. Just backing up a wee bit there, we had the Mentat Emperor. I would imagine that others less gifted as oracles have made that prediction. It's not an obvious thing to say, is it? If this goes well, the Atreides are done. Well, obviously. Is kind of what he's saying there. For them, though, Mentat Emperor, others left gifted that have made this prediction, the thing was written with salt. So just Maktub is Maktub from Maktub, as far as I can tell, is an Ottoman Turkish word which means message, note, or a letter. And Mela is, I believe, the Arabic word for salt. So letters of salt, if you like. Thing was written with salt. I'm not too sure how to take that. Salt's a funny thing metaphorically. You've got to, no pun intended, folks, but whenever you read salt metaphors, you've got to take them with a pinch of salt. Oh dear, sorry, it's kind of had to go there, didn't we? Let's just see. The thing was written, as it was obvious, is kind of what I'm getting, but I wouldn't have gone there with that. With salt. Let's see. I don't know if anybody's got any ideas on that. So, yeah. I don't know. There we go. But the other thing, I suppose, is getting to the end of the chapter there. Others less gifted as oracles have made that prediction for them. The thing was written with salt. Obvious? I don't know. I think it was obvious. Possibly. I don't know. It's a strange one. Maybe someone can help me out with that if anybody's got any ideas. But there we go. We're at the end of chapter 2, folks. We've our conspiracy fully formed, I suppose. By the end, we have Irulan's commitment. Scytale, Reverend Gaius, Helen, Mohiam, Edric, and Irulan, and they're going to bring in the hate gola, which is a psychic poison for Paul, a honey trap for Alia, and we've learned that he is a mentat. He's been trained and has. How has he been conditioned? He's been conditioned as a mentat and has the old Atreides morality. We're learning about the Bene Tleilaxu, that they're scientific amoralists. They set traps that they like to leave a way out for people. That they have sympathy or empathy for their victims, that they have victims, and that, I suppose, two key words with the Bene Tleilaxu would be simpatico, excuse me, and mimesis. Which is a very interesting concept. The basic theoretical principle in the creation of art, the Greek word is the Greek and means imitation, though in the sense of re-representation rather than copying. Plato and Aristotle spoke of mimesis as the representation of nature. I was wondering, do we have a personification? Mimesis continued. Just there you go. Literary criticism carries a wide range of meanings, including imitatio, imitation, non-sensuous similarity, receptivity, representation, mimicry, the act of expression, the act of resembling, and the presentation of the self. There you go. The Greek term mimesis derives from mimestheia, to imitate, itself coming from mimos, imitator or actor. In ancient Greek, mimesis was an idea that governed the creation of works of art in particular with correspondence to the physical world understood as a model for beauty, truth, and the good. Plato contrasted mimesis or imitation with diegesis or narrative. After Plato, the meaning of mimesis eventually shifted towards a specific literary function in ancient Greek society. There you go. Just as one of the best studies of mimesis understood in literature as a form of realism is Eric Auerbach's Mimesis, the representation of reality in Western literature, which opens with a comparison between the way the world is represented in Homer's Odyssey and the way it appears in the Bible. Oh, there you go. Mimesis is very interesting, I think. Be a mimic. Mimesis is very important in learning, I think, as well. You know, when we're young, as much repetition about mimicry is one of the ways that we learn as kids. We copy things, don't we? Probably do it as adults. So there we go, folks. Chapter 2 of Dune. We're done. A lot of dialogue and a lot of, I suppose, conspiracy stuff to get through. We don't have too many new ideas or anything in there. I think the best thing in this chapter was this concept of Mirabasa, this language. And of course, we get to finally meet the Tleilaxu, who are shapeshifters, apparently. They change shape. And some a new character, some old, etc. And even the idea that we're going to see this this character being brought back to life, this Gola. So up until this point, I suppose the only thing that we've seen similar to that, and I suppose ultimately this character, Duncan Idaho Gola, is going to be the first of a long chain of Golas throughout the history of the Imperium and the Atreides. So there we go, folks. If anybody's got any wee questions or comments, it's coming up. It's 11:45, so I can sit for a few more moments, I suppose. Have I got a drink? I do. And I was just saying before we came on there. So try to run with one of these chapters a week if we can. And usually I've been trying to consider what's the best time, and I think it might be. I think we kind of got settled in the 10 o'clock. It's all these changes with the British summertime ending and all of this nonsense. It really throws me. So I'm trying to figure out a good time to go with this regularly if I can. And I did want to go last night actually, but it just didn't happen. So, but as always, folks, the thing is, if we are going to do a program and we can't get on, we will go with the next day. I'm trying to do it then, and if that fails, we'll just go with the following week and give up, you know. But there we go. So it's a very interesting chapter. It brings in our entire conspiracy, little ideas, things, and we discovered that the Kwisatz Haderach is not as unique a thing as we thought. And we've got that really interesting little section from Samuel Butler's Erewhon. And it looks like we're having to build up a new little terminology of the Imperium as we go. What was I going to say? Just wanted to say a couple of wee things, by the way. It's been a funny wee week there. But yes, if anybody hasn't noticed it, I'm not wearing my Mad Max t-shirt tonight, but I just caught the advert for Furiosa. Some of you are about to get adverts on this channel, and a bit of saying down here. Here's hoping you get to see the trailer. But we've got a new Mad Max saga story coming, and it looked absolutely delightful. I can't wait to see it. I think it'll be. Let me just see if we can get a release date. I think it's. I thought it said either March or May, but I can't remember which one. 24th of May for the UK. And it looks excellent. Anna Taylor-Joy looks the business as Furiosa. It's got Chris Hemsworth in it as well. And yes, indeed, this is going to be the 5th Mad Max film. Really looking forward to it. It'll be my day. What a lovely day. So there we go. So if anybody hasn't seen it, check it out. I'll be looking forward to it. George Miller just consistently delivers great movies, you know. I think I was telling you the other week about my experience with Mad Max 2, and as a little kid with some horrific films, and it was the film that made me feel better. And I fell in love with the car. Fell in love with Max's car and his dog, actually. So really nice to see that, and I think it's going to be a hell of an action film. Just on another front, I suppose, just while we're wrapping up with the book club tonight, I've just finished this. I can't remember. So this was a recommendation from somebody, one of you guys, one of you folks out there. It's M. John Harrison's Light, and I literally just finished it last night, and I'm having a consideration, but all in all, I quite liked it. And I'm not too sure what to think about it, but I thought it came across as kind of quite dark and noirish, if you like, in places that I suppose two parts of it had that feel, the other part didn't. It kind of follows three different narratives, if you like, that are connected. And this monster that you're not too sure what's going on. If you pay attention, what's the monster called? Is it the Shrander or something? The Shander? I don't know if I can say its name right. I picked up that there's kind of anagrams within the book. The Shrander is the name of the creature that kind of looks like a wee sort of small woman wearing an old duffel coat with that horse's head. It's a horse's skull for a head. It's bizarre. I think there's another book in the series. I thought it was very well written, and I didn't know where it was going, but I stuck with it. I think it kind of went somewhere transformative. But what I think it would be a hard thing to suggest that what it's about. But what I did get from it was that it was hopeful. If you see what I mean, I think somebody maybe recommended it in terms of positive science fiction. But when I read the last page, and it's one of those great endings where the ending is just the beginning, if you know what I mean. And so it begins, this kind of thing, and that's it. And I think there is another book that revisits this universe, if you like. Well, it's our universe with this, I suppose, huge tract of space, isn't it? The kind of lots of different the Kefahuchi tract, as it's called. That's it. It seems that like all kind of laws of science break down and work at the same time. Anything goes really there. It's kind of an interesting book. It's I did enjoy it. I'm still having to think about it. So, but it was a recommendation from somebody, and I've never. Not only that, but I've never read anything by John Harrison before. So he's a new author to me, which is what we like. It's always good to find. So there we go. Anything else on the book front? As I said, we were working on. So I'm not too sure what to read next. I don't know if either a reread of something, but I've been contemplating this because I haven't read this yet, and I love the Strugatsky brothers. So this is quite a thick one, 462 pages, but nobody writes thin books anymore, I suppose. And I've been trying to get a few audiobooks done, as I said, but the way my desk's set up at the minute, I've not got my microphone quite right, and I had tried to record something, and with being this nasal, it doesn't sound too good. So I'm trying to maybe leave it a couple of days, but I'm trying to consider what PKD story to do next, and I have a couple of wee sort of wee grouping of audiobooks and poems that I'd like to record for the station. Before getting on with a few other things, and we're doing a wee bit of housekeeping over the next week or so. So we're not on Twitter anymore, folks. We're just kind of on the station. And if anybody ever wants to get in touch, pop in through the chats here, or we're sciencefictionstation@gmail.com. The address is on the banner at the station, and so you can always get in touch with me that way if you've got any questions or comments, or want to send anything like Cynthia did today. Where we got another alternative introduction to Dune Messiah. So there we go. So hopefully we're going to get a few things set up on the station, and we have set up a little Patreon account for anybody who wants to help contribute to keeping the station running. So we're going to do a few things for our Patreon subscribers, etc. I'm not very into all of that kind of money side of the thing of it, but we need to see if we can try and bring in a few things. And hopefully, once we get those audiobooks done, once I'm feeling a bit better, we can get a few new wee videos done. So just I've finished a bunch of books really on the ideas. I'd like to even if it's just a quick review or a recommendation or a quick discussion, try and do a wee video on each of them. So this has joined that list, I suppose. And we wanted to get a wee video done on the word for world is forest at some point. So hopefully, once I'm feeling a wee bit better, the book club will go each week, and I'm just going to try and quietly do other audio books and other videos in the background and try and slip them in where I can in the meantime. Well, listen, folks, thank you very much as always. Hopefully, we'll see if we can be back Thursday. I had a wee bit of a change, you see, last night as well because I suddenly picked up a new student. Which meant my time changed. But hopefully we'll be back in a week's time, either Thursday or Friday, with the next chapter of Dune, seeing if we get on okay. And yeah, that was quite a chunky wee chapter. I think the next one's not short either. It's not too bad. And we'll see how we go and see what else we learn as we pile into this very, very political Machiavellian Byzantine intrigue that is Dune Messiah. So there we go, folks. Thank you as always for everybody for your contributions, your questions, and your comments. And I hope you are enjoying this okay. And it's very, very cold. So I'm going to batten down the hatches, close this window, and go and get a wee nice cup of Ovaltine or something. So I'll say good night, folks. Take it easy. Look after yourselves no matter where you are. Be safe in this ever changing and strange world. And remember, no matter where you go, there you are. And check out the new Mad Max trailer if you can. And hopefully we'll see you in a week's time. All the very best. Thanks very much. Good night. Take care. Bye-bye. And we're away.